There are certain statutory requirements that we get into the meeting minutes for tonight, and they're pretty detailed. So you want to pick somebody who's either good on a computer, good at typing, etc. But with that said, I'll leave it open to the residents and the electorate present here today to throw somebody's name out to be the chair. Once we get a few names, we'll do a voice vote or applause vote, and the loudest applause wins to be the chair for the night. Nominate Joe Dolphy. So the nomination is for Joe Dolphy. And do we have any other nominations for chair? This is distinct from moderator. I'll just make clear. This is just to get us to the point where we can elect the moderator. Anybody else for chair? Okay, seeing none, we'll take applause for Joe Dolphy. Very good. And then I will turn it over to Joe Dolphy, who will now entertain a vote from the electorate for first clerk for the meeting tonight, and then second for a moderator. So Joe? And a pledge first, please. For the time that you're chair, if you'd like to sit up front for the very beginning of the meeting while you're chair, please feel free. And we'll start with a pledge as well, if you would be willing to welcome that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If I understood you properly, we need to appoint a clerk for tonight, or moderator. Clerk first, then moderator. Okay. Are there nominations for clerk for tonight's meeting? Alicia whom? I don't know names on anybody. So Alicia Warren. Okay, Alicia Warren's been Morris been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? A nomination for Austin? Oh, it's on tier. Sandy Lathrop nominated Austin. You're going to have to get spellings on stuff. I don't know these people. So are there any other nominations? None of us probably know how qualified any of these people are. I mean, yes, Alicia's in the office, whatever. He said he has to have computer. The attorney said computer skills and minute taking stuff. All we can do is rely on recommendations and nominations. No further nominations. I guess we'll have a vote on between Alicia. Is it Alicia or Alyssa? Alicia, okay. And the name? Austin, Alicia and Austin, okay. All in favor of Alicia? Okay. All in favor of Austin? I think you got it, girl. So, okay. The next thing, I guess, is electing a moderator for tonight's meeting. Are there any nominations for moderator? Jim Garrison has been nominated by Karen Kramer. Sandy Lathrop seconded that. Are there any other nominations for moderator? Gordy Williams has been nominated. What was the name? Okay, I don't know who nominated the last one. Do you need names of who nominated or not for the minutes?
We can just say the name first, nominating, and then say the individual's name.
Okay, who nominated the second person? Andy Ludke nominated Gordy Williams. Okay. Third nomination? Dan Lametti nominated Dave Riopel. Okay. Did you get that, Alicia? Okay. Are there any other nominations? Okay, we'll try and do a clap of hands or how to do that, Mr. What's that? Okay. I guess the candidates for moderator could stand. Then you'll see who you're talking about. Okay, the last gentleman declined the nomination. Okay. So we've got Jim Garrison and Cor. Okay. Show of hands or how? Okay. Show of hands for Jim Garrison. Somebody else count. Okay. All in favor of Corey?
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 19.
So if I'm correct, Jim Garrison is elected moderator?
That is correct.
Okay. Jim Garrison, it's all yours.
Mr. Garrison, if you could start by going through the agenda, reading through the entirety of it, and then you can proceed by moving through the agenda once it has fully been read. Please take your seat anywhere up front you're comfortable. Is that? Yes. Perfect. I think that's the copy that I had printed for myself. Number 2.
No? I am live? You can hear me? Okay. All right. Thank you all for voting for me. It's my 3rd year in a row. And my name is Jim Garrison, for those of you who don't know me. I've was on the Park and Rec for a decade, and I'm now on Planning and Zoning that I've been on for over a decade. So I've been active on some of the committees, and without being political in any way, I'm very happy to live in Linwood. Okay, so now we're going to have the agenda. So the first thing on the agenda, do we need to get a vote to approve the agenda?
We'll do a full reading of the agenda as required by statute, and then we'll do a vote to approve the agenda.
Okay, so you want me to start with where?
We'll start with item 4 as we've made it through 1 through 3 already to nominate you as the moderator.
Okay, so item 4 is a public forum. This is an opportunity for residents to present.
Sir, I think you have a copy of the standard town board meeting tonight. Here's I'll trade copies with you. We're going to have a full reading of the agenda first, and then when we go to item 4, approval of the agenda as an item, we could make motions to amend the agenda.
Okay, so then you want me to start with item 4?
Please, sir. Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is approval of the agenda. Okay, so we'll have an introduction of the board supervisors. Chairperson John Olson. Vice Chairperson Andrew Lutke. Supervisors Lisa Hendrickson, Sam Cole, and Dan Lametti. And then Keep going. Dispense with the reading and approve of the annual meetings from March 11th, 2025. That was last year. And then we'll have the departments and commission reports. We'll have to start out with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Then we'll go to the County Commissioner, Jeff Reinhardt. Then we'll go to the Fire Department, Fire Chief Dan Ballman. Then we'll go to Planning and Zoning. Then we'll go to the Parks, the Senior Center, the Recycling, the Cemetery, the Annual Road Report, then the Attorney, and then we'll have a financial report with budget and levy discussions. Oh, back page 2. Then we'll have the request for the funds. This is the authorization to spend. 26,000 for historical or general community celebrations, 23,000 designated for Family Fun Fest, 3,000 designated for senior center events, 1,000 for recognition of services for retirees, volunteers, and or special service efforts, then 1,750 for health, social, and recreational services. Then we're going to set the levy amount for 27, and then we're going to set the time for the next annual meeting, which will be hopefully March 9th, 2027 at the town hall, and then we will adjourn. Okay?
Very good.
Okay, so now we're at the introduction of the,
We'll go to approval of the agenda.
okay. Require a vote?
Yes.
Okay, so we are, okay.
And I will just clarify, when I referenced standard agenda earlier, that was for the regular town board meeting. It was not a former draft of the annual meeting for tonight. But I will leave it up to the moderator and the electorate to address the request at hand for motion. I'll let the moderator proceed as he would like.
Sure. And so there has been a motion to accept the approval of the agenda by Ed Kramer, and then Sandy Lathrop made a motion to allow an addition for discussion from the public. In my opinion, we've always had discussion from the public. So should we take a vote? Okay, all in favor? What? Okay. That's fair. Okay, so let's number 1, vote for adding discussion. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, let's raise our hands again if we want to allow discussion. I think that is a clear majority. You want to count them?
It is a majority that would rule. Let's just, for sake of the record, if those who are not in favor would raise their hands, and that way it will be easier for me to just count for those who are not in favor if there are any not. But other than that, we can just reflect that an overwhelming majority of the hand vote demonstrated that the electorate does want to discuss a public agenda, public forum.
And so that has been approved and seconded, right? So we're good on that. The only question I would have is, when is the discussion? Immediately after each item or at the end of the meeting?
The motion was silent on it, so I would leave it to you as moderators to decide where you would like to put it in the agenda.
I think we'd all like to discuss it as that particular topic is being proposed. Does that make sense to everybody? So that's when we will have the discussion immediately after. Okay, so we'll allow discussion at each particular agenda, but if the agenda does not come up that you wanted to discuss, we will have it between 7 and 8. The Department of Commissions report and the financial report. That'll give everybody one last chance to bring up a topic to discuss. Is that fair? Okay.
And if I may, just for 1 second, Mr. Moderator, note for the electorate that there is a statutorily defined scope of powers that you as the electorate have at the annual meeting for Minnesota Statute 365.10. So while there may be several topics that you want to talk about, if it falls outside of those powers that you as the electorate have, this may not be the most fruitful forum. Not saying you can't talk about them, but the standard town board meetings, it's my understanding that Linwood Township does regularly allow for comment on whatever it may be. If you're requesting something of the town board, that could also be an appropriate place to make your comments or requests.
Okay. So now we'll do the introduction of the board supervisor. Chairperson, John Olson, right there. Thank you. Vice Chairperson, Andrew Ludke. There he is in the back. And supervisors, Lisa Hendrickson, Samuel Cole, and Dan Lametti. We got a fancy hat in the back. And now we see your fancy hat. And okay, they're all here. Okay. So now, I don't think we need a time frame.
Does anyone want to make a motion? Per person?
Okay, a motion has been made to allow a discussion on a topic that isn't on the agenda for 3 minutes. And it's been seconded. Did you get the people's? I think, Ed, did you second it? Okay. Okay, so now we're at dispense with the reading and approval of the annual meetings from last. What now?
We'll need a vote on that
Oh,
motion.
okay, let's vote on that motion that we are going to allow 3 minutes for a discussion of an item that isn't on the agenda. Correct? Okay, all in favor? I don't think you need to count it again. It looks like a total unanimous.
Just have the record reflect an overwhelming hand majority.
Okay, so I introduced the board supervisors. Do we wish to allow them to speak at all, or is that up to them, or?
Your discretion as moderator.
I think we should give them an opportunity to speak if they so desire. John, do you have anything you'd like to say? Andy, do you have anything you'd like to say? Lisa? Samuel? And Dan? Okay. All right, so now we'll have a vote to dispense with the reading and approval of the annual meeting from last year. All in favor of dispensing that reading?
Who would be in the minority to vote, requesting a full vote, or everybody okay with reflecting overwhelming majority of hand votes? Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to go to reports from each department and commission. So up first is the Anoka County Sheriff Office. Oh, yes. Yes. From last year? Okay. Is there someone here from the office who could address that? That basically is she's requesting is a copy come out at least within a month, correct?
By statute, it is required within 2 days after the meeting that the meeting minutes be filed with the town clerk. At that point, the meeting minutes are sealed. There's no ability to change the minutes. If you want to change them, you actually have to add a note onto the back of them essentially and append it to the back, making such a reflection. You should be able to make a request of the township, any of the supervisors or office staff, to receive a copy of those minutes, and they should be provided to you. At 2 days, it should be filed with the clerk. You could make a request for them after that 2-day period. I wasn't with the township at the time. It would be my direction to the township moving forward. I can't speak to what happened in the past. I haven't had the opportunity to speak to my client about that as the town board, but it would be my direction to them this year. After 2 years, they need to be filed with the clerk and are subject to requests pursuant to 2 days. Thank you. Pursuant to a lawful request for the minutes.
Okay, we're back to the Anoka County Sheriff Office again. We don't have a microphone for them? Be okay?
Some people here, this is Deputy Rosart, who's one of yours, Deputy Mr. Long, Deputy Gagnon, who's not here.
Sorry, just for the video reasons, I think,
Okay,
so people can.
all right. Deputy Swatsky, who is a countywide deputy and also one of our canine handlers. There we go. Followed by Chief Deputy Bill Jacobson and the patrol commander, Brent Erickson. So does anybody have any? Thank you. With that, does anybody have anything that you'd like to share? Any questions we could answer? Making this easy. Yes.
Patrol hours that you have, rotating hours and hours in the past, it's been day every week, every month.
Sure. So we're here in the city from 2:30 p.m. to till 10:30 p.m. That's when you have a deputy here every day. After that, we go to a countywide and we'll serve wherever the need is. So if there's a call here after 10:30, we'll respond back. Or Deputy Swatsky, who's one of our canine countywide, she could respond back here. We've always got a countywide working. So every day. Yep. Every day of the week.
Any idea how many traffic tickets were issued last year?
Pass that down to our commander here.
In 2025, deputies issued 84 traffic citations throughout the year, compared to 80 in 2024. We did make 404 traffic stops throughout the year in 2025. A portion of the proceeds do come back to the township. It's pretty nice.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Part of the missing child, yeah, the other day.
Was that here in Linwood?
No,
Could have been our other rotation that was there.
it could have been.
Yeah,
I just
so we,
wanted to say thank you for finding her.
Yeah,
She was
for
a
sure.
neighbor. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're welcome. Does anyone have any specific questions for our 2 uniformed deputies? Otherwise, we're going to have them hit the road. Yes, ma'am.
This has kind of been something that I've kind of thought about a few times. Fire department comes to Linwood School to talk about fire safety and everything. Is there anything that we can have you guys do, even if it's just one officer come to the classrooms or anything? I'm on the PTA and I was thinking, you know, missing children. Obviously, we don't want that. But you know, when roads are bad, you know, just kind of getting kids comfortable with officers and not scared of them for any reason. My family, we love you guys. So just kind of getting everybody comfortable. And I think having you guys just kind of pop in, even if it's once a year, it's just a good thing for the kids to maybe ask questions that they wouldn't normally get to ask because they're afraid out at, you know, family fun days or whatever. Obviously, if you can bring the canine, I'm always up for that. But you know, whatever, even if it's just a quick little thing where, you know, the firemen are there one day and do a whole big fire truck safety, is there something we can incorporate for child safety, time to ask questions, anything kind of even start little kind of deal?
Yeah, I can start with that. I'll just, and speaking for the deputies and for Lieutenant Douglas here, I think that if you invite us out, we're definitely coming. We also would like to come out to see the firefighters because we think that's pretty cool also. So let us know when that is. We'll check that out. But yeah, the best thing to do would be reach out to Lieutenant Douglas, and we can get you connected with the deputies and try to set up an appropriate time and place for them to come out. And I totally agree. It's super important for our young people to see deputies and see police in that capacity and understand that they're helpers, they're partners, and they're not only around when things are going wrong, that they're there to help you, and that they're part of this community too. So anything you guys want to add on that? Okay, cool.
I have a question. Are you in favor of security cameras, active ring cameras, something of that nature? And what else was I gonna say? And is there a way that if something happens in the community that they want the residents to save that data to help with crime prevention or something?
Yeah, great question. And for sure, we're seeing more and more of the video cameras becoming a part of our investigations. And you will see community requests from us through social media or press releases where we will, and we have in the past, asked if you live on this street or you live in this community, please check your video from this date to this date or this time to this time, because we may be looking for a specific vehicle, that kind of thing. And it would be up to you to decide whether to share that with the sheriff's office or not. But we have a system called Axon Community Request, where we essentially can send you a link to your phone or device, and you can click on that and sort of upload any video evidence to us remotely. It's a pretty slick system, and it's proven to be a pretty powerful tool for us for some of our more in-depth investigations. So essentially, if we put out a community request, if we do a press release or a Facebook post saying, if you have video, there'll be directions probably to call dispatch or to call a specific deputy or investigator. Once you talk with that deputy or investigator, they essentially can send you a link to send it to us.
Can you comment just generally on safety, your impression of you know, from year over year? Are we about as safe as we were? Do we have areas of concern? Just your observations in general?
Yeah, so I'll start with that one. We did take a look at calls for service over the last decade, so 10 years. Your calls are up here about 24% from 2015. Now, given the world, I think that's probably pretty normal. 25%, 24% increase over a decade is probably too expected with changes in society, changes in the community population, that kind of thing. Now, year over year, I think it's 6% from last year to this year. Is that correct? And then I will say, as far as living in Linwood, you guys live in heaven. Linwood is a safe community. I'll just say, we are blessed to work in Anoka County. We are blessed to work in the township of Linwood. And we feel that community support. And we are fortunate because not every community in Minnesota supports law enforcement the way that we get supported here in Anoka County and in Linwood. And not every cop feels that way on the road, knowing that they're making a difference in a community that supports them. Also, we also support the fire department. You guys are great. So, and I feel like I'm talking too much. Deputies, do you have anything to add to that? Or Dan, anything to add to that? Okay. You're welcome.
So I have a comment and a question. So my comment is that, first of all, thank you for your service. I will tell you, I deal with you guys and your deputies all the time. This calendar year has been amazingly better than it has been in the past. Your officers are checking in with staff. They're keeping a pulse on what's going on in the township and where the areas that need attention are at. And they're also engaging with our community members more so than in the past. So I applaud you guys for stepping that up. And I've got a lot of good feedback from the citizens here. So thank you for that. My question is kind of on behalf of everybody, because I hear this question a lot, is especially when we do budgets, is it's like, okay, so we're already paying county taxes for law enforcement. And now we're paying money for this special contract. And I know the answer. And so for them, I would ask the question is, can you outline some of the benefits that contract brings to the citizens of Linwood that your normal county taxes don't cover?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'll start with that one and then I can hand it off if others have things to add. So as Deputy Rosar pointed out, so you have dedicated patrol. So you've got times where you are guaranteed to have a squad car in your community actively patrolling, but we also have countywide cars. Depending on the day, we could have multiple up to 4 countywide cars or just a handful of 1 or 2 countywide cars. Those are the cars that are patrolling your community outside of your dedicated hours. And those are the cars that are responding into your community outside of those dedicated hours. And the number one thing that you're going to see on that is response times. You guys are fortunate because you have an excellent fire department who responds quickly. So if you've got a medical emergency, you've got a car crash, you've got a fire, your firefighters are there quickly. But if you've got another type of emergency that requires a police or deputy response, it can take longer if it happens outside of those dedicated times. It depends on how busy we are, where those cars are deployed, and kind of what time of day it is. So when you look at countywide services, so there are a number of services that every community, every city, all 21 cities in Anoka County and your township pay for. Those are things like our crime scene unit, our SWAT team, our dive team, jail, civil processes, major crimes investigations. We have a huge sort of mechanism of support for your community in Andover, all of our report processing technology, all of our software, all the equipment you see the deputies have, all that stuff, is part of that countywide cost that everybody shares. When we talk about the cost specifically for a police services contract, the city of Blaine, for example, pays their countywide taxes for the countywide services like the jail and all those things I mentioned, but then they also have to pay for a police department for the other services. So in your community, you're paying the countywide taxes that cover the countywide services like the jail and those support systems. And similar to other cities, in your township, you're paying additional to have dedicated deputies responding to all types of calls within your community during that dedicated time. Did that answer the question?
By the sheriff's department person.
Yeah, another great question. So under state law, there's called sheriff shall statutes, and those are the statutes that we are required by law to respond to incidents within a community, no matter what, if they don't have a police contract. But the thing is, they're very limited. So we would respond to in progress crimes. We would respond to bring situations under control, but we would not respond to report without, if you didn't have a police contract at all, we would not respond to report calls, animal complaints, neighbor disputes, anything that's a past action like a burglary or something like that, we would not respond to. Generally, without a police contract, a lot of those folks would be referred to talk to town hall to try to find a resolution to their problem. It is my opinion that that's a better place for a deputy to try to help you with. And I think that when you have a contract, you have that dedicated service. Remember, if you're in a city that's got 24, if you're in a city that has their own police department, they have 24-hour service and they pay for 24-hour service. Here in Linwood, you've got only 8 hours of dedicated patrol, but because you have a police contract, you get us 24/7, 365. We're always coming. Without a funded police contract, that makes it a lot harder for us because then we can't pay for deputies to be dedicated to your community. So there's a longer list, but it's probably too long to get into in this setting. But with a police contract, the level of service you get is pretty high for what you pay. So anything else on that I missed, guys? Okay. Yes, sir.
Regarding code enforcement and stuff, fire violations, whatever. In the past, the sheriff's department has been called on to enforce like burning permit violations, and we've had difficulties, I know, in our township with code enforcement. Is the sheriff's department involved with any of that, or is that internal in the office as far as enforcing our ordinances in our township?
Generally, in most of our communities, we do not handle code enforcement. That it is handled by the city or township. Now, we do work closely with your fire department and other fire departments for illegal burns and that kind of stuff. Generally, we co-respond to those, and both of our agencies do have some powers under state law to address those. But outside of those public safety type ones, generally, the city handles the code enforcement. Okay. Any other questions? Anything we can try to help answer tonight? Okay. So I know you have a long agenda, but I will just say how thankful we are for this community, for the long-standing relationship we have with your community. Our deputies are proud to work here. They're proud to patrol here. Deputy Rosar is a newer deputy, but she's good at it, and she loves being here. And if anyone's met our other deputy Tom, has anyone met Tom? You guys have probably met Tom. Tom came to us with 20 years of experience from another police department. And when he brings that experience into your township, holy cow, is that great for you guys? Because he's been a cop a long time. And again, they come to the community because they bid into this community to work here. So just know we're thankful for you. And we do the best we can to give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to the tough decisions you have to make in this room tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Okay, next on the agenda is the County Commissioner, Jeff Reinhardt.
Hi, obviously an older picture. Yeah. So I'm Jeff Reinhardt, Urinal County Commissioner. I've been in this position a little over 6 years. Prior to that, I was mayor of Lino Lakes for 10 years. And before that, I was a council member in Lino Lakes for 10 years. So 20 years. Never was going to do this stuff. My dad was mayor when I was in high school of Lino Lakes. So maybe I got influenced that way. I really like coming to this annual meeting because I feel like I fit in because you guys are real budget hawks here. When I was mayor of Lino Lakes for 10 years, the budget went up 5.4%. So that's about 0.5% a year. So obviously in saying that, I'm the one that votes no the most on the Anoka County Board. And if I was sitting in where you guys are and looking at me, I'd want to be talking about one thing, taxes. And I usually like to hit topics that people want to talk about head on. We've had a lot of increases over the last years, and I voted no for most of them. I've only voted for one budget over the years. I do try to bring them down and do, but you know, if they don't go down enough, then I vote no. And I think one of the biggest problems is, you know, government doesn't look at expenses like a business. I've been in business for over 40 years. And the way that a business runs is they'll look around and see what the environment is, the economy and things like that. But also what you do is you've got your, the things you need to do and then the resources you need to do it. So you've got the activity and the resources. And government doesn't work like business does. When I run my business, I look at what the activity is and I bring the resources right to that level so I can do a job and deliver. And then adjust that accordingly. But government really doesn't do that. You have that range of fluctuation up and down. Government likes to usually keep things up here because then they're ready for anything. And I understand that to a certain extent in public safety and things like that, you need to do that, but not everywhere. And so that's where a lot of waste happens. The other thing I guess I want to talk about today, because I've learned over time that the less you talk, the more people like you. Be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. I was told by a Marine once. I want to talk about the jail, because the jail has been, the new jail has been a huge topic since I got to the county. When I got there, they presented me with what was going to be a new jail that was going to be 800 times the footprint in Anoka that the current jail is. And it was going to be 540 cells, or the capacity of 540. Well, we have 180 right now. And, you know, I've been doing this a while. I've been in business a long time. And the plan just didn't make sense to me. Why are you going from 180 to 540? That's a 300% increase. And the trajectory of increased population in Anoka County over the next 30 years is 15 to 20%. So what are they going to do with that? And you know, I can't really get a straight answer, and I've been there for 6 years. But obviously, if you build this building, you're going to have 2/3 of it empty. And so what they're obviously going to do is fill it with somebody, some inmates. There's a big footprint for mental health. It kind of looks like what they want to do is they want to bring in a bunch of mental health inmates from around because there's a huge demand for that. And we don't want that. We don't want that in Anoka County. You don't need a mental health footprint for a jail, actually, because it's supposed to be a short-term stay. It's not a prison. It's a jail. And so that means somebody gets arrested, they get brought in, they get adjudicated. They're sometimes released within hours. Sometimes it's overnight, sometimes a couple of days. The average stay in our jail is 8 days. Well, why is that? Because the legislature decided to pass a law that says that after adjudication, that you can, the judge can assign that inmate now to serve their time in a jail, our jail, up to a year. Well, that's great legislation to pass if you're on the state side, because what you just did is you cost shifted every day that that person should be in a prison to the county. And now we're all paying for that. And there's a lot of monkey business like that going on. And so after complaint, and then pushed by the DOC, Department of Corrections is pushing us to build that jail. And right now it's priced at about $250 million. So the state did a statewide study on prisons, and the 540, after the state was pushing us to build this jail, came up to 293. And I'm going, well, great. I mean, we're getting somewhere. So then the county decided to do another study. And so now that one came out at 418. So there's a battle going on for, you know, how many cells we need, and we just don't need that. It's a waste of money. We're in lawsuits with the city of Anoka right now, because you'd think they want that. They don't want that. Today we took an action. I voted no. Right north of the current jail is Van Buren. Now, the city is already upset when they plunked this big government center downtown Anoka. They took Jackson Street. They're still mad about that. And now they want to take Van Buren and build this jail across Van Buren. And that would be the 800% increase in footprint that I'm talking about. The city's fighting it like hell, and they should. I'm kind of a city guy, actually, after being 20 years on a city council. And the county, although now I'm there and I represent the county, I also saw the county, push cities around a lot, including Lino Lakes. And so I have a sympathetic heart for, cities and townships that, the county comes in and does things and thinks that they can do whatever they want. And so I really stick up for cities and residents. So I don't know how that's going to turn out, by the way, that jail. I keep fighting for a lower number. I think I'm starting to get the ear of some other commissioners, so we can get some votes against that. But the thing that's also happening with jails is inmates and attorneys are becoming a lot more litigious, and so they're starting to sue more. I mean, anybody that goes to jail is somebody that's probably going to be complaining that they're there. And lawyers, like to go after easy public money. And I say easy public money, so I'm going to give you an example of what just happened. There have been more lawsuits. I think it was Scott County that was negotiating a settlement for something that happened to an inmate in their jail, and they were stuck at $2 million. And so they had enough of all these lawsuits, so they said, well, we're going to fight this. The problem is that judges look at inmates as victims. So that 2 million went to 12 million. And so this is a real big problem. If we have a huge jail and we start leasing it out, we turn it into a jail hotel, if you will, to other counties, and they start keeping their inmates in our jail. What are we doing? Well, we get $70 a day for that. So that's really awesome. But that does not cover our cost. And so, but the bigger risk, and this is a huge risk, huge exposure, is if we have 400 or 420, like they're talking about now, and we don't need that. So that means half of the people in our jail are from other counties. If something happens in our jail with those inmates from other counties, we're the one that gets stuck with the lawsuit. So since $70 is the price that everyone's agreed on that, is going to be paid or received for, shifting inmates around, my contention is let's build a smaller jail. We don't want to be in this business, right? Build a smaller jail. And when we go to a point where we don't have enough room, $70 a day to the next jail. And guess what? They take the money because they have extra room. And I don't know what the DOC is thinking to continually want everyone to build all these jails, except for the fact that they just shut down Stillwater. So maybe that's what they're doing. They're cost shifting again to the counties. And we've seen so much of this, and especially in the last few years. And when you talk to legislators that are, at the state level, they love this because this is a great way to shed, their responsibilities and push it down on the counties. Then, of course, when you see a county commissioner that's elected that used to be in the state, well, then they flip around and they're really mad at the state. But they were the ones that were in there doing it before. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share what's going on with the jail. It's been a 6-year battle for me. I think I'm winning a little bit because it's not 540 anymore, but still 420 is too much. And from what I've seen, and I've been, like I said, I've been in business over 40 years. I've been, doing this public office thing for 26 years, and I've learned a lot. And although I'm not a corrections facility expert, I do have common sense and critical thinking, and the size that they want to build is too big. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Sure. Oh, yeah.
Money, because it's obvious every year how hard you work for us. My question
that.
is, what was the tax increase
last year for Anoka County and what are they proposing for this year?
Okay, we just had a meeting about that today. You can tell because I'm in a tie. I don't usually always dress like this. Last year was 9.4. I voted against it. Personally, my taxes went up 34.6%. And that is absolutely ridiculous. 34.6%. My home has doubled in value over the over the last 5 years. That's wonderful. If I'm selling it, I'm not. Well, that's the other thing I was talking. Yeah. In Nebraska, apparently when the county or one of the counties in Nebraska assesses your property, they've literally given you an offer. So you can sell it to the county at what they actually it's 150%, isn't it? Oh, okay. I think that's a great plan and I might just bring it up. But today they gave us our 5-year trajectory and it was 7.9. Now last year they were talking about this time of the year about 15-16%. It went down to 9.4. Sorry, that's just too much. And the things that I talk about in these meetings too is a little bit of reality in the fact that prior to Trump getting in those 4 years that we had that bad inflation for 4 years, 22%. You have a 22% increase in everything that you buy. Now I understand that that includes the county and that you're going to have some tax increase there to cover their costs and things like that. But because that happened, the county has an attitude of just having this 5-year plan and whatever is on that plan. Then we're going to do this and we're going to do that and and all this stuff just cost. I mean, there was a bond that just went $78 million they just spent. I was the only one that voted no on it. And this is to remodel a courtroom and to remodel a floor that the one department's moving from here to there. $12 million for that. And the way that they spend money, it's just you have to take a look around. And if people are suffering and they were just hit with all of these increases in taxes and everything you buy, take a beat. If you want to do this, this, and this, fine, do those things, but maybe put some time in between what just happened. Let people digest the costs that they're having to experience and, push the pause button once in a while. That's all, that I argue. It's like, if you still want to do that, maybe do it at a smaller scale, something that we can afford, maybe skip a year or two. It's really hard to get people to listen to that though at the county because it's just marching forward with all the things we have to do. 2,200 employees. And, but I'm the person at the meeting that everyone's looking at that they wish wasn't there. So, but anyway, that's just all I have to talk to you about tonight. Reason why I talked about the jail, because it's not making me happy. Any questions?
I have one, or I just want to say thank you for, I did bring it up last year that you were fighting for the autonomy for the municipalities and account.
Yep.
And I just want to say thank you for voting for us to keep it. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
It's not over with.
Okay.
I think it was St. Francis that just voted, put a vote in to, help that topic along. What we're talking about is poll pads, the autonomy to use them or not. People say that the poll pads are electronic, they're easier, and all that is true. Some people don't trust them. And my attitude is like, if you don't trust them, you shouldn't have to use them because it's not actually part of the voting process. You're just checking in to vote. It affects nothing on the ballot. So why don't you let people check in to vote the way that they want to if they don't trust the poll pads? Because my belief is over time, maybe poll pads prove themselves out in 15, 20 years and everybody goes, well, I guess they're okay. But on the front end, if you don't trust them, that's a really bad thing because trust in our elections is everything. That's the cornerstone of our democracy. You have to trust the elections. And so if you're doing something where it throws any cloud over it, I mean, that's a bad thing every which way you look at it. And so that fight's still going. But yeah, the Anoka County is just adamantly against it. We used paper poll pads up to 2018. So it's not like we've been using these poll pads forever. Up until 2018, we used paper. So, and they tell me there's no difference in how, you check in this way, that way. There is no difference except for they just want to do the poll pad. So maybe that was a good, oh, you've got something?
Yeah, I got one question. I was at the budget meeting the night before you guys voted on it. And I think the prison was in that budget for the next foreseeable future for like 4 or 5 years. If the prison isn't settled on, are they removing that from the budget?
No. The Department of Corrections, they keep threatening and we get threatened, the staff keeps telling us that they're getting threatened, that they're going to come and they're going to shut our jail down. No, I'm kind of thinking that might not be a bad thing because we don't want to be in that business, but we do need a jail. We do need a new jail. The old jail is built like 1980 or something like that. And it's, yeah, I know. I talk about that too. It's like my house is older than that. Should I knock it down and rebuild it?
If they're not using the money like this year that was proposed, what are they doing with it then?
Okay, so it doesn't work like that. They bond for the dollars. In other words, it doesn't come out of the general fund, out of the levy. That comes out of the levy eventually. But basically, we bond for those dollars. And so I think it was in December. What they told us is, okay, well, we got a bond for this jail project. We've been for, I think it's like 7 years now. We've hired architects and engineers and everything, and they've done a lot of work, and we owe them a few $1 million. So they said, well, we got to pay them, so we got to do this bond. So bonding is basically borrowing ahead, and so all of a sudden I'm reading the paperwork. It's for $210 million. I said, what's this all about? Well, we just want to put a bond in an intent to bond in place so that we can go and do that when we need to pay our bills. And I said, but you just told me it's just for engineers and architects. Well, yeah, but we want to put that in place. So, so it's just in place. And I said, well, I'm going to vote no then. And, they usually like to have everybody voting the same on these things. It wasn't true what I was being told. You're not using that just to pay some bills. What you're doing is it's like the boiling frog, and you're treating us like that, as commissioners. Well, just pass this because then we have it in place. And so everybody voted for it, but me. But that's the way that those things are paid for. It does go on the tax roll then eventually to pay that bond off. So anything else? Yeah.
Donate the governor's mansion.
Well, I think we should open up some daycares. What do you think? Pay for that jail and before you know it. Anyone else got questions or anything? Okay. Well, I'm Jeff Reinert. I am running for re-election this fall. So, well, I mean, somebody's got to be in there, right? I mean, no, I mean, when I was mayor of Lino Lakes, the way that I operate, I make a lot of people mad. But I don't go and I'm just not against something without having reason. I can back up all my arguments. And what I tell people is, no, I can't vote for that because I can't defend it. I have to be able to defend every single thing, every single vote I take, I have to be able to defend and not defend with BS. I need to actually defend it. So anyway, that's all I have for you.
Thank you very much. Next on the list is the fire department. You guys can introduce yourselves.
Well, thank you for having us tonight to kind of give the a year an update where the fire department is and where we're going. I'm Daryl Ballman. I am currently the fire chief.
Put that mic somewhere.
Okay. With me tonight, I have Assistant Chief Mike Rammel, who's in charge of facilities and maintenance, and Chief Jim Stockinger, who's in charge of training and operations. Along with that, we have our leadership team, our officers, and our firefighters. Currently, we're at 30 firefighters. And we took on 2 more within the last year. And I'll have Chief Stockinger talk about.
Yes, Chief said we brought on 1 firefighter last year, Troy Miller. He is currently going through his EMT training, working on his national certification, and then we hope to get him into firefighter training this coming summer. This year, we did not plan on bringing on any firefighters, but Brian Walker moved into the community, who has previous experience, certifications, and everything through a previous department down in Egan. So we are happy to welcome him on in January of this year, and he'll be in his probationary period. Then once he's through that, he'll be a full-fledged firefighter with all his training. Beautiful when we get that, because that's no cost to us. So. And then we also had a couple of promotions this year. Troy Sechel was promoted from a lieutenant to a captain's position to fill someone that stepped back due to career issues. And then Cole Klingbeil moved up into lieutenant's position, and Bobby Nebel also moved into a lieutenant position to assist us with training.
And this is our fire department at large. There's some people that are missing, but that's who answers your calls when you get dial 911. Again, we have 30 firefighters. So you're in review. In 2025, we had a total of 337 calls, which is a 7.7% increase from 2024, which was 312. Average time is 10 minutes, 0.3. So response time is actually pretty well, seeing that we have to respond from our homes to the station. Some individuals go from their homes right to the scene, which helps that. Along with the deputies. And again, we have a great working relationship with the Anoka County Sheriff's Department. I did talk to Chief Deputy Jacobson before this to make sure he gave us a lot of kudos, and I guess that worked out. So appreciate those guys. Average firefighters, we had average of 7. Again, that ranges from 15 on a given night if we have training down to 1 or 2. So the average, if you call 911, you're going to get at least 7 firefighters at your call. Medical incidents, which is about 80% of our calls, was 222. Good intent calls were 41. Service calls were 2. Fires were 24. So the fires are kind of encompassed. We do what they call box alarms. So we have mutual aid with East Bethel, Forest Lake, Stacy, Wyoming, and then Isanti. So at any given time, if they need assistance, they hit the box and we respond. The isolated one there is basically Isanti. They're not on our box, as well as Wyoming and Stacy. They have to request us for mutual aid. The service calls were 2, hazardous conditions 16, and false alarms and false calls were 32. Again, for a total of 337 calls. Something that we don't aspire to. It's not a record that we want, 337. That means somebody was in distress 337 times last year. So with that, I'll open up to any questions, and then we'll go to Chief Ramel about the where we are on the fire truck. Hearing none. Oops. Yes. Correct. So our PSA right now is with Health Fairview, Chief Kane and his group. We also have mutual aid with Lakes Regents as well as Alina, but they're our PSA. 9 times out of 10, we're going to beat them to the call. So
I believe they stage. Wyoming, looks like you.
yes. Yep.
Sorry. M Health, our PSA, I believe they stage in Wyoming or Forest Lake. So they are coming from a, farther distance. Yep.
So with that, if you want to go over the fire truck.
Yep, so 2024 was the year that we approved the replacement for the new engine, which is going to be coming up here shortly. This is just kind of the timeline for the milestones as they sit right now. May 2nd, last year, the engineering specs were released, which means everything was gone through and good to move forward. December, the cab arrived at the chassis plant. May 15th, so just, it's not on here, but it was the beginning of last week, the cab just went into paint at Rosenbauer in Wyoming, so it is now red instead of just looking like an aluminum unfinished cab, but a long way to go yet. But May 15th, cab and chassis is slated for completion, and then we'll be go through the internal quality control process, and that puts our delivery date at the end of July for final inspection and delivery. And that, obviously, those dates are tentative, pending no issues. So any questions on where we're at? Yeah.
I guess I'm glad to see the township and the fire department going to a local vendor for this. Rosenbauer is a good quality company. In the past, they've gone out of the state, out of the area to buy trucks, and I thought that was ridiculous. Rosenbauer is a good company and will have local service. I'm just glad the township finally went back to them.
Yep, and agreed. They make a quality product. They employ a lot of people in the township. That was discussed at length, and it was not just because of their proximity, but also they do make, you know, a good quality product. So we were definitely happy to go back with them too. And so far, everything has been a very good process.
That's pretty much all we have tonight. Again, if there's any questions, willing to answer anything. So, as I told Chief Deputy Jacobson, that even cops need heroes and firefighter service. So, kind of alluded that tonight. So, but thank you for all your support.
Okay, thank you, Fireman. You're doing an excellent job. Next on the list is planning and zoning. Mr. Dolphy. Do you wish to address the planning and zoning, Joe? As a member of the planning and zoning, I will say that Mr. Dolphy does an excellent job. We're very lucky to have him.
Speak loud, but not to the audience out of the room. On behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I give the report as much as I know of for the last year. We didn't have any major plats or developments come in. We've been working on accessory building ordinance for over a year. We're trying to get that ironed out. If we can get the last details into it, it'll be amended to reflect a little larger building thing than what we had in the past for accessory buildings, but it's got to go through final draft and public hearings and stuff for that to get done. I guess I've been frustrated in the last year. This township has changed over staff completely from a year ago. The office staff is different. Last fall, and I'm basically venting to the town board and whatever, they hired a planning agency and planning commission knew nothing about it. They hired them in November. We knew nothing about it until January. And I've been after the office to be in contact with this planner. I believe the lady that's in charge is Cindy. I still have yet to even get an email, a phone call, or anything. And I think that when they're reviewing plans, in the past, we've had a good relationship with Susan Boucher, former zoning administrator. Her and I would be back and forth on topics and on applications and stuff to try to iron things out prior to the meetings and stuff. Since November, I've had no contact with anybody. Susan moved on to a different position somewhere else. And the new planner, again, I wasn't notified, planning and zoning wasn't notified. And I think there's a lack of communication between the board and committees that needs to be straightened out. And no, it's right out of my frustration tonight with the annual meeting. It's just very disorganized coming into this. It should have been a better format coming in. I think it should have been organized better by the office. I realize it's the people's meeting, but we had to have an attorney show us how to run it. And that to me doesn't sound right. And I think that's part of the organization of our township, that the board has to get on board with what the people want and to be more accommodating to the people. And again, since last fall, when I found out, that they hired a planner and there's public hearings coming up on variances, I knew nothing about it. Planning Commission knew nothing about it. We've got December, January, and February now. We didn't have a meeting because of lack of a quorum. So I understand nothing's been done, but there's been nothing heavy on the agenda. I guess I would like better communication between the board and the Planning Commission, and maybe other committees have the same problem, but I know as a planning committee, there are certain statutes, certain things that need to be done. And in my opinion, the board's not been following it. And I think that we need to get things back in line. And I brought things up that are in our ordinances that they should be following in regards to planning and zoning, and they haven't been. And I brought them up chapter and verse to them, and it just doesn't seem to get straightened out. And again, there's been quite a turnover in the office. The people in there, they may be good and qualified. To me, they hired new people coming in at the same wages that the other people were let go at, or close to it. I don't know the numbers, but I know they're pretty close to the same numbers. And they're hiring inexperienced people to come in to a real mess that nobody knows how to straighten it out, or at least it hasn't been. There might be a couple of board members, maybe all the board knows what's going on, but I think you'll find out later in the meeting here how disorganized things are as far as budgeting and expenditures. I don't think they're gonna come up with a good number that we can realistically vote on for our taxes. And I hope we'll see what comes out of the financial report, but that's my frustrations. And then some of it's planning and zoning, some of it's just township in general. But planning and zoning, I think, has been put to the side, and it should play a more important part in the future of Linwood Township, and I hope it will in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Dolphy. So now unless there's any questions for Mr. Dolphy, no. Okay, we'll move on to parks. So who is the representative for the parks? Would you like to introduce yourselves, please?
Hi, I'm Dot Forboard. I'm the chairperson of the Parks Committee. And I'm Beth Riapel, and I'm the vice chair. Okay, so we made a little slide for you guys. And with the exception of one member, the entire park board is very, very new. Yes. So this has been very much a learning process for us. Linwood has a lot of parks. We have a lot of parks, and we have had zero capital allocated to parks since at least 2022. So all of our parks budget goes 100% into mowing and maintenance. So we don't have any funds available to do any kind of planning. So if you feel like our parks are a little dated, they are. So we have come up with a strategy to move them forward, because we don't expect that we are going to. We're always the first to be cut from the budget. If we need to cut money, let's cut it from parks. And our equipment and everything is showing that. So we have some of our slides, at least. Yeah, okay. So we are a recommending board. We don't actually have the authority to spend any money. We can make recommendations, and they go before the town board, and then they determine whether or not we will move forward with that plan. We struggle very hard. As I mentioned, we have park dedication funds, and that's where things like the new warming house come from, but we're very restricted on how we can use those dollars. In order to use park dedication money, it has to be a new project. We cannot repair, we cannot replace. It has to be new. And before we get too far on, we are 3 board members short. So if anyone wants to come help us work on the parks, we would welcome you. We would love that. Let's see. Okay, so I have been on the park committee since September of 25. I joined in the fall of 24. So we're all very new. Yes. But we have never seen a budget. We don't know how much money we have to spend. We don't know how much money we have until very recently. And that is something that we have been told by the town board members that it will change and be a little more transparent. But as of right now, we have to wait until the end of the year before we can spend any of the funds that were potentially allocated to parks, because we have to wait and see how much our operations budget is before we have any funds available to us to spend. Okay, so this is our tennis court, which I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but it's in very bad disrepair. Those are just some of the cracks. You can see like how deep and how wide they are. It's my understanding they have been patched before, and it's our intention to kind of limp it along because I don't remember when the last quote was, but it was like $100,000 to replace the tennis courts, which get used by a lot. In case you aren't aware, they get used a whole lot. We have a lot of people that love pickleball. They're very committed to playing, and this is unsafe. Yeah. So the other big project is our hockey rink. So we just spent a lot of money on that warming house. Now we'd like to fix up the rink to make that a little more usable. This year, I think, was a good year that represents that. It was, even though it was cold for most of the winter, it was hard to make ice. And I don't know how often anyone even got to skate on the rink, to be honest with you, because the lights don't work. And we've determined it's something underground, so we can't figure out what the problem is until it thaws. And then we can kind of go from there. We are very fortunate. We do have a very dedicated group of volunteers who are very committed to making the ice and clearing the ice. And they really want to be able to utilize those facilities. They're very committed to that. We just need to make it easier for them. So this is some playground equipment. It's adult exercise at Betcher Park. And you can see that's just one example of how that equipment is failing. I believe we purchased it from the I think it was donated. Or donated, okay. From that place that in Wyoming that Rosenbauer now has. So we can't replace it. We will have to remove it, which will cost us money to do that. So there are that was just one example. There's missing pieces and things, but yeah. So, as I mentioned before, we typically have to make all of our financial decisions out of our operating budget. So we're gonna hopefully try something new this year. We last year could not get a dedicated park employee. The township could not find one, so they outsourced all of the lawn mowing in our parks. And so this year we are going to move towards mowing less of our parks. We would like to bring in some goats. We have some invasive species issues in pretty much all of our parks. And there are services that will rent us goats. And then when the goats come in and remove the invasive species, which the park neighbors will love that stuff is no longer creeping into their yard. It will also prepare the land so that we can replant some of it into native prairie or something that we don't have to put so many maintenance dollars into. So if you're interested in that initiative, or if you have thoughts, we'd love to see you at our next park board meeting. Yeah. And that's just a picture of Betcher. It's really hard to tell. That's a massive park to mow. It takes hours and hours. All of it. We don't know. We don't know. We don't have any. Thank you. Thank you. We've asked and we don't know. So, okay. It's all mowed. Yeah. Yes, we mow all of it. Okay, so here's what we would like to move to. Obviously, we know this is going to cost some money, but it would solve a number of issues. We would like to pour concrete on the hockey rink so that we could use that year round. It would help with flooding the ice in the winter, keep the ice a better grade for skating. And then in the summer, we can use it for additional pickleball courts and other activities like that. And then we would get dual purpose out of the lights that we already know that we need to repair. Yes. That particular project is at the very earliest, we're looking at 2028, 2029. There are DNR funds available for outdoor recreation, but we have to match. And the minimum amount that we have to match is $50,000. We could potentially tap some of our dedication dollars for that because the pickleball aspect of it would be new. But we would need to find some additional funds. So we're just hoping that you guys will maybe help us out and vote for us to have some money so we can start taking care of what's here. So it doesn't get too run down and too far gone to repair and be an asset to the community. Do you have questions for us?
Can you just clarify the operating budget problem? It sounds like, I mean, obviously we outsource mowing. I don't know what other people or activities are involved in maintaining our parks, but are you saying we don't have an operating budget?
We don't have an operating budget.
Like you don't know what
members have not seen an operating.
Okay.
We just found that number recently. Yes.
So is there a position in the township that would oversee that to give that to you? It's just not clear to me. Like, do we not know who should have that number?
I believe that in the past, those numbers have come from, I have not ever seen them, so I don't know. I would assume they would come from the treasurer.
Okay, is the board confused, or we're asking these people to do a job, but we can't give them the money or give them any information? Does the board know what the budget is for them?
Sam?
I see there is a proposed budget for the Park and Rec of 93,000 this year.
That includes much of that is for mowing though.
Maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So I've been, excuse me, I've been on the town board for coming up on a year here, and I've been working with the Parks Committee for that entire year. When I came into the board, we were right in the middle of kind of reworking our finances, given the fact that our treasurer had just recently left. And we have a new treasurer, Alicia, who's doing great. We also have a company named Abdo that's been helping us work through it. But the fact of the matter is that our finances, the board's been working through that all year long. It's confusing for the board. It's more confusing for the committees. But the problem of the committees not having access to their budget goes back years and years. And it's been a big initiative of this board to get that information into the hands of the committees so that they can be accountable for it and so that they can make decisions based off of that. So just what's that? New software as well that's going to give them more access to that in real time so they don't have to bother the treasurer to get that information. They just have it handy at every meeting. But that being said, they're absolutely right. They haven't been able to see that information leading up to this meeting because we're right in the middle of this project right now. And so it's a huge problem. They do have an operating budget. They are correct that pretty much all of it, with a few exceptions, goes straight to mowing. So even if they were able to see their budget, there's not much that they'd be able to do with it because the board is the one that decides ultimately what that money's being spent on. And historically, it's going straight to mowing. So what they're saying in terms of maybe cutting less grass, I think makes perfect sense, given their financial situation. But I think it's going to take more than that. I think they're going to, if the township wants to see some change in their parks, they're going to need to actually invest in their parks.
So have you guys ever worked with the county to find dollars that might be available at either state or federal level? Okay.
You would
well,
love to.
So I'm chair of parks for Anoka County. And
Perfect.
and contact me and let's talk about projects you have. Some might qualify, some might not. Maintenance is not going to be, that's not going to be something that qualifies. But like I'm working on a $7 million project right now for Circle Pines. Well, I've been working on it for like 15 years, but that's a big one. So, I mean, it's very hard to fund, but other smaller projects, I mean, like I worked with your fire department, we were able to find some dollars for a new generator. Actually, we ended up getting one for the fire department and city hall. So that was kind of a twofer. But yeah, contact me and let's work together. I'll introduce you to Jeff Perry, who's the director of parks for Anoka County, and let's see what might be available. Certain specific projects, there is funding available sometimes. So
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. I also would just like to say is we are hoping to post a questionnaire type thing on the new town website, so that we can get some feedback on what you guys would like to see in our parks or don't want to see, just so it'll give us some idea of how we should go forward. So we'll post somehow when that gets up so that you can go do that.
I just want to correct something I said earlier. Betker Park, I said was 5 acres. It's 7.13 acres. The park across the road here, Broadbent Park, is 6 acres. And the ball field across the road does get used for football and other things. Betker Park, there might be a hike or a walking path around it, but that's about all. Other than that, it's a lot of grass to mow for nothing.
Are all the parks used 100% or are some of them just used a small amount? I mean, like, would we be able to not fix some of them and do more for the others?
Well, that's what we're hoping to find out with the survey, just so we know, because it's hard to know. Like I don't drive by parks during the middle of the day because I'm working. So they could be used a lot and I wouldn't know.
But I do believe that you're correct, that there is a significant disparity between parks that are used regularly and parks that see very little activity. And some of it might surprise you, the parks that see a lot of activity.
Yeah. So, any other questions?
Have you thought about, volunteering for some of the old people if they would be able to do it? And the Boy Scouts, they're going for their badges, their Eagle Scout, and let them take on a project and do it for the township.
We have had that happen. There was a young Boy Scout that just upgraded Alquist Park. He did something with the ball fields there last summer, the summer before, I can't quite remember where, but there is an issue with volunteers and waiver forms and liability and everything that we're working on figuring that out to see if we can utilize those type of things a little bit more.
Yeah, because the community is very generous and we do have a lot of people that have reached out and said, we'd like to help in the parks. And so we are trying to figure out a way that we can utilize that within the bounds of liability. Well, would you like to join parks?
Well, you don't have to mow, just be on the board with us. Yeah.
All right. Does anybody have anything else?
First of all, I love pickleball, but I know that there are a lot of people that don't like the noise of pickleball when you put lots of courts together. So maybe the questionnaire should be on that, or an environmental impact, something, what decibel can you expect in your community. That's my thoughts.
Give us something to think about. All right. Anybody else? I don't remember who's next. Do we just?
Thank you very much. I think Linwood has great parks. The school forest is an absolute gem. And so I commend you ladies. Okay, so now we'll move on to senior center.
I'm gonna pinch hit here for Sarah. She is on vacation. But touching base on the senior and community center, list of all the events up there, calendar on the website. We've got lots of our active participants here in the meeting tonight that can speak to all the fun stuff that goes on there. Everything from the game days to exercise club, it's all there and open for all to enjoy. So definitely reach out to the senior center and see what it can do for you. There's some list of some of the activities they've done. They do fishing trips, the parades, paint club, lots of luncheons, activities. Again, the events are numerous. The big one I want to highlight coming up is the Easter egg hunt. That is Saturday, April 4th. She's got sign up volunteer forms in the senior center looking for people to help stuff eggs beforehand and the day of the event. So Saturday, April 4th, if you're available, it'd be much appreciated. Any questions on senior community? Transportation program is one of the budget cuts coming out of the cuts that are happening. So that program, very limited use, but the overhead of the vehicle and everything that goes with that. So that program is one of the ones out of last year's budget to get cut. Anything else on senior community?
So the vehicle that we purchased a few years back, I'm assuming that that will be up for sale. And how will you do that?
That is correct. That'll be a process gone through the legal channels and the process of which will be consulted with the attorney. I'm not privy to know how to do that.
Yes, I was wondering how often you advertise and how many people are aware that we do have this program going on. Because I know there's a lot of seniors that would like to take advantage of it for doctor appointments and so on.
Oh, you're talking the transportation?
Yes.
Yeah, it's, again, the overhead and administrative, we take staff recommendation of what there is. There's the impact of it in terms of it's done by volunteers. Now you're trying to manage volunteers and volunteers can't do it. You're setting something up and we've had missed appointments and it's just putting the town in a position of staff having to now navigate if neighbors helping neighbors is probably the best resolution in my opinion. Anything else on senior and community? All right, moving on.
Okay. Next on the agenda is recycling.
Recycling program. Lisa mentioned those days, Tuesday afternoons, Thursday mornings, Saturday mornings. There's a picture of the new reuse center that is open and operational. Our tonnage goals, we've knocked it out of the park here in Linwood. We do have a lot of people that recycle and bring in a lot of their tonnage reports when they recycle their scrap or their cans as well, outsourced to others. And then what we take in back there, in addition to the county revenue that comes in from some of the recycling programs that we have, kind of help supplement that. Lots of stuff back there to that gets repurposed and saved from landfills. So
on the recycle program, we have been without employees for quite some time. And Lisa, one of the town board supervisors, and Andy put a lot of time in. They should be highly commended for it. Lisa is there every day that it's open. Other days, Andy is there on Saturdays. I don't know if John is, but I know they are our program would not exist without our supervisors. They are really keeping it going well until we can get some employees in place. So they really need to be commended for that.
Yeah, Steve is doing a great job. He's back on Tuesday from vacation, and we're looking at getting some new appointees back there too. We interviewed last week to keep that program going. It's definitely something that Linwood is all in on. So we thank the residents for that. Ed's the originator. Anything on recycling?
The reason we got to use a microphone, maybe you folks got a lot better eyes than I got. I can't read that little lettering up there, but the microphone lets the people that are out and about hear this. It's the reason we use a microphone. That should have been brought up at the beginning. I would like to know, what has that last building cost us? Right to the dollar.
The new reuse building? That has been built through grant funds from the county. To be clear, not the whole building, just the reuse portion is recyclable, reimbursable. The other portion, as alluded to earlier, came out of park dedication because that was a new park building, but we can get you, I can't tell you that number standing here right now, but we can get you that number. Else? All right, moving right along.
Okay.
We haven't gotten to financials yet, so we should keep it going.
Okay, cemetery.
I'm Craig Rylander, and I guess you'd call me the coordinator for the cemetery. And it's a real honor for me to serve the community this way. It's been a busy place. Last year we had 18 burials, a few more than usual. It's an important place and it's a beautiful place. And I really enjoy working up there. We got a committee that also does a lot of work, and I get a lot of help from office staff too. It's not just me. There's a lot that goes on that people really don't know about. Why should you really, honestly, I guess. But no, I'm very happy to serve this way. We have a project for the vacant south section in mind for the future. And so we'll see where that goes. We might see something happening up there this year. And I guess my concern for the cemetery is to keep it beautiful. There have been, every year there's more and more decorations, things that aren't allowed in, if you look at the regulations. I would urge everybody to read the regulations. They're posted at the cemetery. There's paper copies. There's paper copies on the table out here in the hallway. And you can always call and ask questions, but more and more we get things that aren't allowed at the cemetery. We got solar lights, plants, things that are not allowed, and they just keep popping up. And it's harder and harder for our maintenance guys to, well, just to mow, because they pick things up, they move them, they mow, they put them back, and it's really a hassle. There are also some dangerous things. Once again, this year, I found a live shotgun shell resting on a flat marker. It was right on the ground. And so you can imagine what would happen if the mower hit that. And that's not the first time that's happened. So I just think you all should know there is some concern about safety, and just the way it looks up there. But anyway, well, yeah, it's right. Yeah, it is. It is. The lot that you would be buried in is at no charge. Your spouse would get one adjacent to you at no charge. This is for township residents that live in the township, are tax-paying residents, and it's their primary residence. That's all in the regulations. So we don't have to get into all that, but I'll answer any questions anytime. But I really love doing this. And all systems go, I think, right now. Just want y'all to know who I am, I guess. Any questions at all tonight? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Rylander. Okay, well, now the next committee will be annual road report.
All right, so your annual road report, which we're required statutorily to provide each year. So for 2025, we've got the road and bridge operating revenue. In 25, the actual was 409,725. The road and bridge operating expenses was 250,524. Road and bridge, the ending balance in 24 was 159,200. The road and bridge capital revenue was $335,693.32. Road and bridge capital expenses was at $85,482.13. And the road and bridge capital 2024 ending balance was $411,722. In 2025 capital expenses, where that was generated from was in engineering. There's $54,692 in those expenses. Most of that was payment for the 205th Avenue resurface that we did down towards Wyoming. So there was some expenses carried over that we had to pay for engineering costs there. Legal fees, recording fees was $5,283, so that wasn't too bad. We did some soil borings, which cost us a bit of money. Soil borings in part consisted of the soil borings in the parking lots. If you've driven through the front of this parking lot, you'll notice that there's a huge divot that goes all the way across the parking lot. That continues to get worse and worse every year. If you drive across that and you think that's bad, go behind the fire department. I don't know how the fire engines are even getting through there anymore. So these need to be addressed, and we were trying to figure out what we were dealing with and how best to address it. We did get a couple bids. We're doing the Mart Lake Road project this summer. So what we did was we had them bid an alternate bid for each parking lot just to see what the cost would be. Both of them were $110,000, $120,000 a piece to do these parking lots. So that's put on the back burner for right now. The 2025 operating expenses, our class 5 that we put down each year, that cost $56,847. The enhanced street sweeping is we've got an agreement with Anoka County that we do nearly 2 miles of roadway, and it's around our lake. So we do East Martin Lake, West Martin Lake. We do Fawn Road and a few roads up on the north end of Fawn Road. And we also do South Linwood Drive. Those have catch basins that feed directly into the lake. So in order to support the Sunrise watershed efforts in cleaning our lakes, we need to do the street sweeping so that we keep the phosphorus from getting into the lake. That's what causes the blooms. That's what causes all your algae issues. That's what encourages the growth of the carp. And this township and Sunrise has spent a lot of money in the last dozen or so years upgrading the lake quality. Right now, Martin Lake has moved up multiple grades and is a safe lake now. Compared to 20 years ago, you didn't dare hardly swim in it. So that helps protect our lakes. And then the crack sealing, That's an effort that we started back a few years ago. Our roads are getting worse and worse all the time. The cracks, if you've been on some of the roads, I call them an inverted speed bump, but there's about 1 foot to 15 inches that will invert into the ground. And what that is that we blacktopped a bunch of roads and we never had a maintenance plan. So the cracks developed, and over time, the rainwater gets down there, the freeze thaw, it breaks down the soil underneath, and eventually that blacktop dips down. So what we did was we started to try to get ahead of it or get caught up. We're finding that as the cost of materials and the cost of installing goes up, we're doing less and less roads. So we've been working on some plans in order to try to accelerate that as the budget will allow. The longer we wait, the more it costs to repair the damages because the damages are much greater. So crack sealing was 24,927. Road grading, this one, year by year, that can change a little bit depending on how much rain we get. If we don't get rain like last year, we had some time that there was some spreads where we didn't get rain for close to a month or a little over a month. If we grade on that kind of a road, it just continues to make the road worse and you get more potholes and stuff. So we usually wait until after we get some rain, some moisture in there, and then grade. So there's a system that we go through, but our grading cost was 58,164. And it went up a little bit a couple of years ago, but it's been kind of staying a little bit consistent right now. Salt and the sand salt mix. This obviously is for our winter ice conditions. That budget, it was at $18,283. And there's something covering the right of way mowing. So the ditch mowing is what that is. Ditch mowing normally costs us a little bit less. This year it costs us a little bit more. The reason why is because with those windstorms that we had come through a couple of years ago, it blew a lot of brush and a lot of debris down into the roads. They were having a tougher time doing adequate ditch mowing. So we had them try to clean up some of the ditches. I know that they did a little bit of pushback on the brush that was coming over the road. That'll probably be the last year that we do it in that fashion. I think moving forward, we do have to move forward with getting another public works employee. We've gone about a year and a half short one employee. Once we get a person on board, we'll probably bring that work back in-house and actually in the past, what we've done is gone through with a couple trucks and actually cut the brush backs and loaded in the trucks and got it out of there. We'll probably go back to that method. It's a little cleaner. For those of you that had somebody come through with that mower and hit your trees, it does blow a lot of brush around. So I apologize for that. We are fixing that. So hang tight. And I don't think there's anything under the mowing, is there? Okay. So that is your official 2025 annual road report. I hesitate to ask if there's any questions.
How many times a year do they come out and sweep the roads around the Martin Lake?
Yeah, very good question. So the enhancement grant that we get from Anoka County is for 4 street sweepings. The first one we have to pay for, and all the grant is they cover $400 for the last 3. So we get $1,200. So it's not a lot when our street sweeping costs us, about 12 grand.
Thank you. You say 4 times a year. Does someone quality control it and go out and physically see that they came out for 4 times a year?
Yes. We did have a problem, not this year, but the year before with quality. The machine that they were using was new to them, inadequate. And I do go behind and inspect the roads after they're done. And I had them come back twice after that to reclean for free because what it was doing was blowing the debris across the road instead of picking it up. It wasn't vacuuming it. So it was a problem. And they also had one metal broom that blew apart and blew little metal tines all over the road. So that was another cleanup effort we had to have them come back and take care of. So we did have a few issues with that year. This year went much, much better. They kind of had a lot of words with them, and this year they really did a much better job.
Joe Dolphy again. In past years, over the decades, we've had the engineer come out and do inspection on certain roads, and there was a maintenance schedule that, based on what the engineer's recommendations were, that said how many years out crack sealing and B, seal coating, whatever. Is there any program like that in place or did that get abandoned? Because usually the engineer does most of the specs on stuff and he can tell whatever is necessary to maintain these roads. Is there any program like that going on at the present time?
No, that's the first I've actually heard of it.
It was active up till about 8-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's the same engineering outfit we have at the present time, I believe. But Hawkinson Anderson, I think
Yeah.
it was. And but it's something like that would be beneficial for budgeting and everything. So you can forecast. And I know some road projects have gotten kicked to the back because of budgetary stuff. But for maintenance, they say that the roads haven't been maintained. Get back on the stick with, having the engineer look at them, or even your road review. Once a year, you go out an annual road review. You should be able to identify real problem areas and look forward to that. And to me, road and bridge is primary. Road and bridge is part of public safety. That should come ahead of a lot of other expenses that the township has. And road and bridge doesn't get much for grant money. I mean, it's all out of the township's pocket. So I think that if a schedule is put back in place that identifies problem areas and maintenance that needs to be done, it would be beneficial to everybody in the township and to the town board.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you bringing that up. I did not know that existed. I do periodically, each year meet with, Craig Yoakum. He's our town engineer. But usually we drive specific areas of concern, based on like, residents complaining about different things or asking questions. But I was not aware that they did an overall road review. What we have been doing is for the last 3 years, I think it is that our road and bridge committee has been, they broke up the township into different regions, and then they'll go through and drive them all, and then we get an overall road report. It's something that, again, I appreciate you bringing it up. I can type all that stuff up. It's already typed up. I can put that together and maybe I can somehow get it on the website and you guys can see the details that go into it. I mean, it's a lot of sign issues. It's a lot of road issues. Yep. Yep. Yeah. The comment was getting more professional information from the town engineer was the comment. No, I agree. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I'll talk to Craig about it. But, two things that are going on that I should mention. Martin Lake Road, I mentioned a little bit ago, that got delayed a year. By the time we could get the financing and all the numbers through, and if we would have gone out for bids, by the time we would have gotten the company in place to clean the ditches, get the trees all cleaned up, what happened was we've got a long-eared bat that is known to frequent those oak trees along there. So there's a period of time that we can't go in and clear. So we just approved the budget. We just awarded the project to Knife River. And you should start seeing some activity coming up here pretty soon. They worked on getting a schedule. I think right now, the last I heard was they are negotiating the road restrictions on getting equipment in and stuff. But very, very soon you should start seeing trees coming down. Once they get the right of ways cleared out, then here you'll start seeing in early summer, you'll start seeing some big equipment coming in. Their original, and I think they might have pushed it back, their original schedule, and they're trying to refine it right now with the contractor, was to try to have it completed before August. So we'll cross our fingers and we'll see what happens when they give us the final schedule. Another project that we're looking at is East Bethel contacted us and is very interested in doing a joint project on Sunset, which is our westmost road. And the estimate on that this year, they wanted to do it this year. The estimate was $600,000. So our portion would have been $300,000. With the budget issues where they are right now, I told them that it just wasn't going to be feasible for this year. We do have the engineer looking into the possibility of a grant, but it's pretty highly unlikely. It's not a road that really meets all the requirements. It's not a connecting road. There's nothing special on it. So Martin Lake was easier to justify because of Camp Sally. There was county property along it, so it was much easier to justify that. So that'll be an expense that we'll probably see coming up here in a few years. That road, if you've ever driven it, it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So Martin Lake Road, horrible. That one equally as bad. Yeah. So any other questions?
Judy Hanna.
I believe the fire department probably still does like a 5-year plan that they look at year after year after year. The town, Road and Bridge used to do a 5-year plan, and so did the park board do a 5-year plan. I don't know if either one of those two still do, but that's something for you to maybe think about going back to.
Yeah, thank you. And we just had a meeting, about a month ago, a joint meeting between the town board and the Road and Bridge. And, it was a pretty long meeting, but we went through a lot of the projects, the things that need to be done in the township. Again, it's all in what you can afford and priorities. I realize public safety, number one. So those go to the top. But there's a lot of things too, a lot of infrastructure things that we need to take care of. So from that, we are working towards getting that into a plan. That's based on the finances, and this is part of what our Abdo finance company is helping us work through is our capital projects. And so all of that will be factored into that as to how much money do we have to save in order to get these projects done within certain timeframes. So that information will be available hopefully in the relative near future. But thanks for the question, Judy. Anything else? We can get going into the finances. All right, thanks everybody, appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Did you wish to have something to say?
Yeah, just briefly. Again, my name is Mark Allsites. I'm the town attorney, along with the other two partners, Mike Corey and Bob Rupi at the Law Office of Corey and Rupi. Our client that we directly respond to is the town board. We represent about 350 townships across the state of Minnesota and about 14 cities. Tonight, the purpose that I'm playing, somebody I think made the comment earlier about, not wanting the town attorney to run the meeting. It's not my intention to run the meeting whatsoever. It's simply to advise the electorate of the options that are before it tonight, the scope of the authority that the electorate has versus the scope of what the town board has, should any of those questions arise. And I think that we've got a moderator who's done a great job tonight at stepping in and leading the meeting tonight. So if anybody has questions as they arrive with respect to the authority that the electorate has here tonight, I'm happy to answer those questions. But we'll just keep the questions for tonight limited to that scope. Any other questions you have can be directed through the town board at a meeting and make their way back to me if the board so thinks it's appropriate. With that said, I think that we've been going quite a lot of time, so I'll take questions as they arise throughout the rest of the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're on the request for funds, authorization to spend. Do we wish to vote on each one individually? Is that what we're supposed to do? Anybody give me some direction here? 26,000 for historical or general community celebrations. Now I assume this is money that we're going to, yes.
It was the added public forum.
Okay. I don't have that on my agenda, so I'm sorry to, sure, public comments before we get into anything else. Is there any public comments? Yes.
I'm Brian McCullough. I am not, I don't quite understand why we're talking about voting on each individual item. In years past, we have voted on a total budget. Is that where we're going right now? Is budget per?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So as I've understood from the past, unless something's changed, we are not the town board. The town board will take the money that they are granted, one lump sum, and they get to decide where to put it. Unless something's changed, I think we don't have this ability to say we're going to give these guys 50,000 and these guys 300,000. We can only do this as one. Can the town attorney give us some word on that?
Yeah, so I'll speak to it a little bit different. We've got the request for funds and the authorization to spend. There are certain things statutorily that before the town board can expend funds, they need elector authorization on. So these I would advise walking through individually, just because, for example, 911, 912, and 93 all require elector authorization before the board can disperse those funds. So for that dispersal of funds and authorization to spend, I would walk through them individually. It would be up to the discretion of the moderator and the electorate on how to proceed for setting the levy. There are several options that occur for tonight. You can authorize the levy as whole. You could set levy in part and then continue the rest of the levy to a different date. Ultimately, the levy will need to be set so it can be certified to the county auditor by September 30th of this year. And so what could happen tonight is there could be there's statutory authority to adjourn the meeting and continue it to a later date if you want more information. That could be an outcome that the electorate chooses tonight. That's frequently done if we don't know the exact cost of what a police service contract is going to be, or if we don't have the most accurate numbers yet. So that is one option that you have. The other option is setting the levy as a whole, and the electorate can make that decision by majority vote tonight as well. So it's kind of up to the electorate on how they decide to proceed tonight.
Okay, so we can do these one at a time. And I don't know if this would be a good time to, Jim, maybe you could help us on this. Do we want to set something up here? Do we want to have a discussion here as far as we want to do this all as one? As far as I know, that's how we've always done it in the past. Not that we have to keep going with the same way we did it in the past, but that's what I'm used to.
And I would think that was the way we will continue to go, because we're all here. And to say we'll do this in April and this in May, we won't all be here. So I would like to see us set the levy.
And I will just address, just from a legal perspective again, when I'm saying that the levy can be set for individual funds, you're not controlled, the electorate does not control the line items of where that money gets spent, but within the respective, your road and bridge, your parks, the different buckets that it goes into, you can individually set the levies and walk through, or you can just approve the levy as proposed.
And I think that was your point, Brian.
Yeah.
Lisa?
I just want to make a comment that there's a lot of residents that are not here tonight because it is spring break for the Forest Lake School District. So they're on vacation. Just want to put that out to where they would probably be supporting parks.
So we run into this every year because our annual meeting is always during spring break. State statute does require it, but we do have the option where we could move to recess this meeting and re-meet when we have more complete numbers, if that's something that we're interested in doing.
I guess we could have a vote to see, but the general consensus I'm seeing is that no, people don't want to have another meeting.
Mr. Moderator?
Yeah. Pardon? Number 8? Well, I thought that's what we're on right now. I thought that's kind of what we're doing right now.
Let me see that.
Joe?
Yeah, the items that are listed under number 9, they need to be acted on separately from the levy. That the attorney mentioned that this isn't part of the levy. These have to be authorized by the people. So then we have to be acted on separately. Then we can get into discussion about levy. But the items under number 9 need to be acted on individually, I believe. And then they could be.
Even if the town board decided to act on them later on?
They don't have the authority to act on expenditures because that's not part of the budget. This is about money spent over and above the levy.
And that
My understanding, that's the way it's supposed to be.
The only one that doesn't require elector authorization per statute is the designated senior center events. The town board is authorized under statute to make that spending without elector authorization. The remaining items on here do require elector authorization per statute. I could give the individual citations if folks care at all.
I think some people were waiting on any extra comments outside of what we already went through though too. If anybody had anything else pertaining to the community in general. I don't know if anybody did, but that was added.
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, we still haven't had the budget discussion yet, presentation. So I think in some ways the cart is being put before the horse a little bit. because of the public comment. But as the motion stated, public comment can happen at any phase throughout. So if individuals would like to make comments at any time, they may.
Is there any comments? So again, to clarify it, the request for funds for those, yes. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion for 26,000 for historical general. Where's number 8? I don't have it.
So eight was added by motion to,
Public,
It says
I
financial.
understand, but we put public forum in between 7 and 8. So exactly.
anything?
And then move inside.
Okay. With that said, with no comments, we're going to close the public forum.
Just, we're moving to number 8. That was be my public comment, please, so we can see the finances. Everyone, Ashley is on the screen, ready to talk. If that could happen, that is my comment.
Okay. So Ashley's ready to talk?
Yep, I sure am. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to work through, first of all, I'm Ashley Feldward and I am employed at Abdo, and the town board has entered into an agreement with Abdo for us to help assist getting the finances in order and assist staff with some training and really just help you guys get some transparency in your numbers. So we started that full services contract in February. So in the last month, I've worked with both staff and board to really dive in to finances, and we've learned a lot. I will admit we have a lot to learn yet. So I appreciate your patience as we work through this process. We're trying to get the best information the quickest that we can to residents and the board so that you can make the best informed decision possible. Along with that, we are helping with a software implementation that's going to really create some transparency, and all of your board members will have access to that software as well. So they're able to get information at their fingertips and just really have clean information moving forward. So that is a work in progress. So I'm going to dive into a budget document tonight. I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you guys see that okay? All right, so historically, the township has levied for 2 main primary purposes. There is your general operational levy that is intended to fund the township's general operations, maintain core services at their current service level. And the second portion is the capital levy. And that is used to fund your significant capital purchases for the maintenance of equipment and equipment purchases, as well as infrastructure. You have all referenced tonight that need for that long-term plan. And as the chair mentioned, John, that he noted that we are working to build those plans out, but it does take a little bit of time to work with department heads and different committees to really understand those needs and figure out what those cash flow needs are so that we can help come up with different ways to fund projects and just keep your tax rate as even as we can throughout time. So we try to plan those things out in advance to just try to keep things stable. That's our goal in this process. So along with that, I just wanted to give a little bit of information on cash balances. So there is your levy each year for both operational and capital. And then you also have reserves in place. And those reserves have been built over years. We don't have 2025 final numbers yet. We'll be working on your audit soon. and getting things trued up. But as soon as we get those numbers, we will make them available as well, so that you can see where your cash balances are sitting at the end of 25. Your 2026 and 2027 levies included in this document are simple projections that we have created with my team to help give something for you guys to react to. And how we came to those numbers, we're looking at several years of prior year numbers, as well as where we were currently seeing 25 go, and then looking at your budget and kind of how you've come in with your budget in the prior years to just help us to project what those numbers would look like if we follow the trend that we were seeing in both expenses and revenue. And this budget that I'm going to show you all tonight is showing pretty much a stable tax rate for the community, and with very little to no increase for most taxpayers. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like. So the 2027 tax rate in this document as it sits, and again, this was created by our team based on our best practice principles that we do to create budgets for many government units across the state. We have to estimate a few things because we're a little bit ahead of what county information is available. So I'll kind of talk through some of that. But this tax rate is set to be at 21.73, which is a 0.02% increase over what the 2026 budget was set at.
Hey, Ashley,
Yes.
is there any way that you can make that image a little bit larger for the people to see?
You bet. Let me see what I can do here, guys.
Or even if you have to scroll up. Oh, that's helping a lot. Thank you.
Is that better? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So I'm right here at this 2027.
The people are asking for one more larger if you can.
How's that, guys?
They want a little more if you can.
Let's see what we can get.
There, everybody's happy with that. Thank you.
All right. Yep. It'll cut it off a little bit, but that's okay. I'll talk about it. Okay. So the tax levy, as it's shown in this document, again, this is just projections for the 2027 tax levy is proposed to increase overall 61,000 or about 3% over the 2026 levy and budget. So based on historical data, and this is what I talked about before, there's a couple things that come into play with county information, and we're really too early for them to provide that information, just because it typically comes out mid to late summer. But we took some historical data and made some projections based on what we've seen in the history of Linwood Township. And we figured in this budget projection, a 1% increase in your fiscal disparities, and then a 3% increase in your tax capacity. So those are estimates that we included because we just don't have county information at this time. That, of course, we will get updated as the year goes on and be able to update that. I'm not going to ramble through this page because I want to show you a different illustration. This is just kind of the summary of changes on your operational levy. Moving on to the next page. All right. So we're looking at your tax levy as it was, and again, 2026 had not been allocated out yet. I'm going to make this one smaller because I want you guys to be able to see the headings and my left column here. So these are projections, and what our goal is we want to project a balanced budget, because we always want to try to balance our budget to begin with, knowing that there are going to be variances, but we have to try to get as close to a projected balanced budget as possible. And we'll continue to work towards fine tuning that. Along with that fine tuning, we're going to be consolidating some accounts as we implement into the new system. And I'll give one example. There's like postage in like 8 different places in your line item detail. So we're going to consolidate postage into 1 or 2 areas where we really see those expenses. We have a lot of line items in your previous years that were budgeted at $10 to $15 that just don't make sense to budget at that level anymore. So we are working to do a lot of that cleanup, and we will see that get fine-tuned as we really start to understand those expenses better and learn more about the township. So again, we're going off of a month of information and learning about the township to put these projections together. I want you to focus on the 2026 levy real quick here. I'm going to talk through that. And I want you to focus on this top portion here. When we get down to capital improvement, I mentioned before that you have the operational portion of your budget and your levy that we set, and that's going to be your general fund all the way through recycling. Those are your operational funds. Starting with capital improvement here, which I'm gonna highlight. That is where our capital starts. So as I talked about before, we're building out those CIPs or capital improvement plans. We don't have all of the information yet, but our goal is to build those out so that we are making sure that we're cash flowing, and then we will have incremental amounts allocated within that levy that we know we can cash flow those, and we can bring that information once we have that put together. So the top portion for 2026, these numbers are based on balancing your budget and what you would need for those operational funds to project a balanced budget. We put 636,000 in your general levy. Road and bridge was 396. Fire was 403,000. Police was 368. The senior transportation was 78,000. Cemetery was 6,000. And I'll note that that was actually for some capital, but the way that it was shown in the past, it was rolled up underneath the operational. We will allocate those out, but we were trying to just have some continuity in how you guys have done the process so that we could get to know your budget. So we left that there temporarily. Parks and Recreation has about 93,000 and recycling had 101,000. And you can see if we try to project out a balanced budget, there was 36,708 that we just simply plugged into your capital improvement so that you could see once we had the operational piece allocated out with what the needs were, we had 36,708 left for that capital improvement. Okay. And that brought your total levy to 2,120,000. And that did include the watershed district, but this was what was included in the county reports along with your fiscal disparities of the 205,000 to get your actual net levy to 1.9 million. And that's how we get to your tax rate of 21.72, which is what the county information shows. And your tax capacity is at 8.8 million. Okay. All right, proposed 2027. So again, the same principle was applied here. We looked at those historical numbers and projected out how those numbers were trending. Your general levy is sitting at 692,000, your road and bridge at 380, your fire at 400, police at 368, senior / transportation at 74,000, nothing in the cemetery, and then parks and recreation at 93.5, and recycling at 102. And then road and bridge capital at 27,000 and fire capital at 45. Now we're really trying to change the way that we get information to the residents. We really want to show what it's actually costing. And rather than just saying, okay, we need 2.1 million this year and not really knowing where it's allocated to, we really want to come with projections of where that is needed and what pots of money you need that in to keep things operational so that you're getting more information on the front end rather than just seeing how things end up at the end of the year. We really want to make sure that you're getting valuable information going into this process so residents can really understand what the operational needs are of the township and how they have been in prior years. So we don't have final 2025 numbers because we're still working on your audit and we do have some reclassifications to do from the prior year. But once we have those, we will obviously provide those. So that brings your 2027 levy projection to keep things stable and level at 2.1 million. We estimated again your fiscal disparities at 208,000, which brings your net levy that would be with the county of 1.9 million. And again, we estimated that 3% increase, and we went on the low side because we typically see a tax capacity increase anywhere between, in the past years, we obviously know there's a lot of inflation. We all know that. We've all seen that. An inflationary tax capacity increase doesn't necessarily help residents. It's new construction that really makes an impact on what residents pay. But we've seen anywhere from 3 to 10%. So we went on the lower side with the 3%. And that gets your tax rate to 21.73. And again, this is estimated. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next screen here, and then I will show you another scenario after that. This page in our budget document is simply meant to give jumped ahead there. To give an explanation to residents of what your tax capacity breakdown is. And we just, again, assumed that 3% increase, but you can see residential homestead is your largest breakout there at 7.2 million. And your second largest is residential non-homestead. And then we go on, so on and so forth, with ag being at 253,000 and on down to your other categories. All right, next portion here is the impact of the proposed 2027 levy. So as shown above, when I gave that breakdown between 2026 and 2027, you can see that in 2026, based on what your levy was set at, if you owned a $300,000 home in Linwood Township, your taxable market value would actually be $280,500. And your annual tax liability would be $609. The average residential value of a home, according to Anoka County in Linwood Township, is $333,910. And the median residential value is $347,921. So just kind of some data for you. So that I chose kind of the middle of the road there at that $300,000 home. And if you look at the impact on 2027, there's virtually no change. It's actually shows 0 here because it's a rounding difference. So if you had a $700,000 home, you would expect to see a $1 increase based on the projections we have in this budget. Okay. This graph here, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on because it's a lot of information. We include it. If you're visual like me, sometimes it's nice to know. It really just gives the allocation breakdown of what your levy was in prior years and kind of how it was allocated out. So like in 2021, you can see your general fund levy here was about $500,000. Road and bridge is next, and so on and so forth. It's just a visual graph for you all. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. But I will talk about your tax rate because that's what really is kind of a big factor in what folks pay. So typically we only go back a few years, but I had the data from the county, so I thought it would be nice to show you really have sat between the 20 to 25% in your tax rate, which it's pretty nice and stable there. We like to see where it's nice and stable and that we can continue to project out needs so that we can try to keep that as stable as possible. Our goal when we work our local government budgets is to just try to keep things as stable and try to, you know, utilize grant funds as much as we can and help recommend different strategic ways to utilize funds, whether it's interfund loans or other things that we hear about with working with so many different governments to really just help be creative in your funding so that we can make the most of the township dollars. So you can see your tax rate, that projection at just over 21 here in 2027, and the highest it was in 2021 at just under that 25% mark. Okay. All right, now we're going to look at some general fund summaries, and this is going to be hard to see because there's a lot of information. I don't know, were you guys given copies of this budget? Alicia, were they distributed or not?
There's a public copy
Okay.
that's provided, but it's not individual so that everyone can see it. So if you could explain it.
Perfect. I just didn't want to sit here and ramble if you guys had the information in front of you.
I think there is a copy that's in the back. Is there a binder? Okay. Okay, but is there a copy back there? Thank you.
Should I keep going?
Please.
Okay. All right. So the next page of this document is really looking at your general fund budget summary, and this is your general fund operations. So the top portion looks at revenues. And so I'll call your attention to the total revenues down here. And I'm going to explain this anomaly that we discussed last night at the workshop. There is a $305,000 transfer that happened in 2024, we discussed the fact that there was a significant lower amount in property taxes in 2024. And these are your audited numbers. So when I was going through your audited numbers and pulling them out, I didn't quite understand the story of why it was showing up in other financing sources, but the board was able to shed some light last night that in 2024, the way that the budget was actually, the levy was allocated out, the general fund was left with very little operational funds. So at the end of the year, or I believe October, I'm sorry, I can't remember the date for sure, the board had decided to allocate a transfer of 305,000 from, I believe, Road and Bridge in order to bring the cash back to a positive balance in the general fund. So that's why it looks a little strange in 2024. So if you're looking at this document later, wondering what that is, that's what happened. And that's why it was classified as other financing sources, because that was actually a transfer due to the way that the budget was allocated out in 2024. So as we follow the revenue numbers across, you can see that it was 481,000 at year end of 2024 for revenues. And the actual 25 is sitting at about 697,900. There could be some adjustments to that once we get all of your audit entries done and everything trued up at year end. Not significant though. Your 2025 budget was sitting at 664. And then, 2025. And then your 2026 budget. And again, the 2026 has not officially been allocated out. These were projections. I just want to make that clear. But the budget for 2026 was 735,000. And then again, this estimate of 796,650 in 2027. Okay. And on the expense side, your total expenses for 2024 came in at 629,000. So if you look at your revenues, you were at 481 and you had 629. So you would have had a decrease to your fund balance of 147. So you were over budget in 24, according to the audited financial statements. And the actual in 25, it looks like we're coming out roughly $16,000 ahead. So our expenses were less. And our budget, we were projecting that we would have 664,000 in revenues and about 603 in expenses. And in 2026, this is a principle I was talking about before, that we're trying to always project a balanced budget at the start of each year, or as we certify the levy, to make sure that we're planning for the best case scenario. So you can see that we have 735,000 in 2026, and then that same 796,650 as the revenues in 27. So if you're into numbers like I am, how we come up with what we need for the tax levy in each of the departments or each of the funds is we project out our expenses and we project out our revenues, and then we take the total expenses and subtract out what our projected revenues are. The balance of that is made up by tax dollars in that tax levy. So that's how we decide what to allocate. It's a simple plug to make sure that we balance. So that's your general fund. On the next page here, we do break it down by each of your special revenue funds. So we have Road and Bridge, Building Department, Fire Fund. I'll just start with Road and Bridge. In 2024, you had 363 in revenues and 326 in expenditures. So you came in 36,830 under budget. Actuals in 25 are at 159,200 under budget. And we projected a $6,200 surplus in the 2025 budget. And again, 26 and 27 are balanced. Do you guys want me to read each one of these departments? I'm happy to do it, but I also don't want to bore you to death. It's getting late, I know.
It was a resounding no.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. But we are going to go to the bottom because I do want to talk about one more thing. The all funds summary that's at the bottom. So this is how all funds came in, the special revenue and the general fund above. The actuals for 2024, revenues were 1.9 million and the expenses were again 1.9, but 65,000. So you came in over by 6,700. Actuals were at about 190,000 under budget. And then the budget overall for 25 was projecting a $226,000 loss. This looks a little goofy in 26 and 27. It looks like we're projecting a loss. We simply do not, or you have not historically allocated any sort of tax levy funding for the building department. So I did not allocate anything there based on historically how it's been done. So I did leave that projected loss. So your overall all funds total loss for 26 and 27 are simply due to the building department. So I just wanted to explain that, because when you look, that's what you're going to see. The rest of it is all detail, and I am quite certain you do not want me to spend any more time going through all the details. So it is broken out by fund, expenses, and revenues. Questions? That's all I have for the budget. I can show you the second scenario with a little bit of an increase, but that's the first version.
I guess I got a question and a big question. You say the building fund is the what, I forget how many thousand, 100-some thousand or something for the building. I thought the building permits took care of the cost of the building fund. Is that the category we're talking about on there? You showed one of the last things you showed in that.
Can you see my screen again?
Yeah, I can see it, but
let me make it a little bigger.
You said that there was a change from previous years because of what you added for the building department.
No, not a change, but for all other funds, we're projecting a balanced budget. For the building department, historically, the township has never allocated tax dollars. I'm guessing it's to exactly what you said, the fact that it has supported itself. It's kind of like a business operated fund, that it supported itself with fees.
That's the intention of the building permits, was to support that department.
Yep. So it might be that we need to look at some fee adjustments or things moving forward. I cannot speak to details on that yet. I just have not had the time to really dig into that. But I just know that historically they haven't allocated funds. So I didn't want to change how you guys have historically done it and show you something completely different.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Before I show you another scenario, does anybody have more questions? And I promise it's not that full presentation. It's very high level and just kind of some tweaks that the board had put together last night at the workshop. Okay, if there's nothing else, should I just move on to showing you a second scenario that the board worked on last night?
I'm curious to know how the road and bridge received less money, or is projected to receive less money than. All we hear is roads and bridges needs more money. We're spending about the same for police protection, which is wonderful. They gave a great presentation and they do fabulous work. They're doing what we asked them to do. We hired them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm about to say something maybe preposterous, but it's controversial for sure. Do we need the police? Before they were here, I've been told by firemen that the deputies that were regularly patrolling the county would often get to the calls before the fire department. They're here anyway, like they said. So I guess maybe it's time to look at the priorities, and even without that, I just use that for a comparison. What was the logic behind the decision to allocate less money to road and bridge? Thank you.
Yeah, so as far as the road and bridge, if you're looking at the road and bridge here, we based it on historical numbers on the estimates we allocated. As far as everything else concerned, this is operational side. This is not capital funds. I don't have anything or very little allocated to capital funds. So these are projections for the operationals based on historic numbers. Okay, any more questions before I move on to the scenario 2?
I think we're good. I don't see any further questions.
Okay. All right, so this is a second scenario. So I did meet with the board last night in a workshop so that they would have a chance to really work through some of the numbers and give me some estimates on what they thought was appropriate. So I'm going to just show simply the overall levy and how it was allocated out, as well as the impact to residents. So what does that look like on your taxes? And again, the tax capacity is estimated. Your fiscal disparities are estimated. But you can see, let me make it bigger, not smaller. You can see the proposed 2027 levy column that we're looking at. They're proposing 801,000 in the general levy, 380 in the road and bridge, 339 in the fire. Police is 335, 535. Senior transportation is 48,489. And parks and recreation is 89,000. Recycling is 144,188. And then now here we've got some allocations to some of your capital funds. So we're starting with road and bridge capital at 77,000, building capital at 25, fire capital at 145, and your park dedication at 30,000, bringing your levy total to 2.4 million. And again, your fiscal disparities are unchanged at that 208,000, and then getting to your total net levy of 2.2 thousand. And that would bring your tax rate up to 24.3, and that's a 2.58% increase. So you can see there we're starting to allocate some of those funds for those capital improvement plans that we're going to build out throughout this year with both board and committees and staff.
Everyone's saying that this screen needs to get flipped over. I think it's on the wrong screen, perhaps.
Oh, my apologies. Let me try that again. Are you guys seeing scenario 2 now?
Yes.
Okay. My apologies.
There's a request to increase the size if possible.
Yep. How's that?
Better.
All right. So here's I'm not gonna read through them again, but here's your new levy. And you can just see the addition of the road and bridge capital, building, fire, and your park dedication here. Okay. And I'll show you here the impact. So the township tax rate then is estimated to be at 24.3, which is a 2.58% increase over the 2026 certified levy. Okay. And then I'm going to show you what the impact is, and I'll make that bigger again.
There's a comment from someone. Could we get a microphone over to that individual?
Yep.
Thanks for holding up for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know where you came up with a 2% increase, but our levy last year was 2,100,000. And if you're going up to 2,400,000, that's a over 15% increase, not a 2% increase. That might be some impact thing, and these numbers are not what the final numbers were when I left the meeting last night. So at the end of the meeting, it's close, but this is not the numbers that they decided on at the meeting. So somewhere those numbers changed between last night and tonight, and they don't have the right to do that at a not public meeting. So I'm not sure. And again, it didn't change a lot, but some of them did. General fund went up over about $100,000 from what they said last night at the public meeting. And then they changed some of the numbers down below. They don't have the authority to do that. I have the numbers of what they decided on at the meeting last night. It's still 2.4 million, which was a 14.45% increase. So for you to be coming up, I don't know where you come in, the 2 point something must be, but just take and divide out 2.1 million, which was our levy, because you can't consider the watershed because you didn't throw the expense in there, which we discussed last night, but it was our levy we voted on last year was 2.1 million. And what the board wanted last night was 2.414327. That's at the public meeting what they chose. And that was a 4.45% increase.
Here's the
14.45.
So here's the number, the 2414. That's the total that was given to me by staff this morning. Here's the 2414327. This information, this 2.120231 is what was on the county documents. That was the final certification that came from the county. So I don't have,
understand. We did discuss that last night. We,
Yep.
as the people, voted for 2.1 million.
yep.
And so,
And-
yes, they threw in some watershed, but you would have had to offset that with an expense. And that never got put in there because you probably didn't know about it. But we chose so we don't work off of 2,100,000 or 2,120 or 2,000, whatever. We don't have to worry about that 2,000 because we didn't vote on that. Our increase goes from 2.1 up to 2.414327, which is what they voted or what they chose last night at a public meeting. So that again is a 14% increase. I'm aware, they're aware, that's probably not going to fly, but the 2% number that you're dealing with has nothing to do with us. Our levy will increase 14.45% if
Yep.
we vote on what they chose last night.
Yep. So here is the 2.414327 that you referenced, if you can see on the screen. This is a 2.414327, which is shown as a 14% increase. So the 2.5% increase is the increase in solely the tax rate. That's not the levy, that's the tax rate. So the tax rate is what impacts directly your actual tax burden. And I did have to include the watershed because that's how the county calculates your tax rate. So that's why I had to include it, because I had to get
The
to
only
what the
time it's
county-
ever been included, it never has been included before because we show the levy that people vote on.
Yep. Yeah. And in order to get to what Linwood Township's tax rate is, I have to include what the county gives me. Otherwise, your tax rate would not be projected with what the county is certifying to your taxes. So that's why I had to include it in the calculation, or my tax rate would not match what the county is saying they're taxing all of the residents on. So I did need to include that. And I could see that you guys approved an operational levy of 2.1 million. I absolutely could see that. But in order to calculate your tax rate, I do have to include the watershed because that is included with what residents feel for a tax rate. So you can see that there is that 14% increase in what was discussed last night. And here's the 2.414327. Okay. Any other questions on that before I show you what the impact looks like in this scenario?
We're okay to proceed.
Okay. All right. So again, we're looking at that average residential value of $333,910 and the median residential value of $347,921. So in this second scenario that was put together last night, if you owned a $300,000 home, excuse me, the payable taxes, taxes payable in 2026 are sitting at that $609 in that $300,000 home. It would be expected to be an estimate at $682, sorry, or a $72 increase annually. And that's at that $300,000 mark. And you can see it's about $100 for a $400,000 home. And if you own a $700,000 valued home, you're looking at $181 increase annually. Okay. That's all I have. Any other questions for me?
The moderator said no.
Okay.
As long as we're discussing the budget before we go on to the levy, I have a few numbers and I was here last night, so I have a lot of the papers that were in the packet. And I just want everybody to be aware before we vote on the levy of where I think we could do some cutting. And yes, I do believe we need to fund our capitals because we can't not keep doing it. But last night I asked how much we have in the capital funds and nobody could say it. It's not available from the new accountant. Nobody could look it up. So I looked it up this morning in about 1 minute. And we have, if you take the ARPA funds out, I'm going to pretend the ARPA funds don't exist. We have $800,000 in capital at the beginning of last year. Nobody knows what we spent last year. So we have hired Abdo to do our bookkeeping, and they have set up a new bookkeeping system, which the board claims the old one is archaic, and I don't discount that. And they're going with one that will be easier for people to work with. I understand all of that. We were very short-staffed, and if I look at my numbers and I can see what our office staffing was last year, this is not our planner, this is our clerk, our treasurer, and our assistant treasurer. We spent over $107,000 more in 2025 than we did in 2024. And this accountant cannot give us a budget. She said, maybe they'll be done in May. We write no more than 40 checks a month. I could do 40 checks a month in an afternoon of entering them into bookkeeping system. For them to be able to say, well, we need receipts, we need this. This is bogus. We are budgeted to spend more than like another increase by 2027. What they're projecting is we're going to add another 80,000 to that. This is insane of how much it's costing us to be running our office because the board wants new software. Again, I don't discount the new software, but this accounting firm, it's crazy. Like, how can they not have a budget? Our treasurer was here through March, so all of those were verified, but they don't like what they got. So they keep asking for different things. They literally cannot tell us what we spent last year. That's crazy. And so now the board, and I'm aware that they'll probably be cut back, but they want a 14% increase so that we can spend, we budgeted last year $10,000 for attorneys. We're now up to $100,000 for attorneys. So our cost of operation is not going into our roads. It's not going into our parks. It's going into running the office because we have to keep having more and more legal fees. I agree $10,000 was not enough, but I don't think we need to jump it up to over 100,000. And we've already spent in the first 2 months of the year, our legal that we paid out was 23,000 in 2 months, in January and February. All of that stuff is out there if you just look for it. But every time you ask, they can't tell us where we're at. They want to put the levy off until the fall so they can see where we're at. In my opinion, we have spent well over $100,000 extra over last year to find out where we were because they didn't like the numbers that they got it's not that they didn't like them. They couldn't understand the numbers they got last year. So again, new accounting makes sense, but we have paid these people that much money and they still can't tell. And for that few of checks, that is crazy. I think you guys really need to be looking at it because the board is not being responsible with their money that they think it's okay to spend that kind of money. But don't worry, we'll get better reports. When? We sure didn't get it this year. And they've been our accountant since June. This isn't public comment. This is about when we're setting a levy. Well, I will speak again because on the levy, we're not limited.
Okay. Okay, first of all, I want to apologize. I didn't realize that number 8 financial report was going to be done virtual. So are we all done with that? Now we can move on to the authorization to spend on number 9. I mean, I think we all want to get this meeting over with pretty fast. And there's a few things under 9 there. We want to discuss them, vote them down. As a quick comment on what we got virtually, it would have been far better if we could have got it printed. You know, we could have all understood it far better. Whatever the reason was, that's my opinion. Okay. Anything to add to the request for funds on that? There's 5 or 6 items there. Are these things we haven't spent on before? Are these items that we're requesting items that we haven't spent on before, so they aren't in the fund to begin with? You know, like Oh. Nine one, 912, 9293. It's on the back page.
This is what Joe Dolphy had talked about before. These are things like for the community celebrations and stuff. Each one of these has to be voted on by the electorate separately. It's part of the levy money, but it's designating how the electorate wants that money spent. So the celebration, those kind of things, they're independent. They each have to have a motion.
Each one?
Each one.
Okay. Do I hear a motion? Maybe we could do them quickly, like,
I have a question related to, I guess it's related to the budget, the levy, and this. This is just, could be just me, and I don't want to throw a monkey wrench, so you can tell me what our options are, but it's very difficult to vote on approval to spend money when we don't really know how much we spent in 2025. Either for a levy or for these things, right? I mean, you'd never go out and buy new kitchen cabinets if you didn't know what your checkbook balance was, you know, at any given time. So is there an option? I heard you, Sandy, say that we're not going to have our 25 actuals till May. Is that your understanding? I'm looking at John.
okay,
so
25.
So we do know what we spent in 2025. Those are our actuals.
Yes, those are the actual numbers. And all my comment is there will be a few audit adjustments as we book a few different year-end entries, but your numbers for 2025 are there. Your bank reconciliations are done. Your 25 numbers are in that budget document.
So just for clarification. Though, is 25. If you look at the overall budget, we know what we spent. That's easy.
That is correct.
But the allocations for what those invoices got assigned to is what's different. So this previous staff that we had here, over 300 account numbers in an old archaic system is what they were trying to track it. And it's not against previous staff. They had a horrible system to try to deal with. They did the best they could with it. This is also part of the reason why Parks didn't get reports. If you look at how we get reports out right now, you can try to run the same report 2 weeks apart from each other and get different numbers and not having changed anything. So the system stinks. Okay. So what happened was our past staff knew exactly over 300 accounts. If an invoice came in, how they were breaking it up. And when they talked about postage, and there were 7 different areas for postage, they had a factor that they used of how much of that postage got split between each one of the departments. Made it very confusing to try to figure out what did we spend total in postage, just as an example. But they knew how to do that. Now that staff, both people left within 2 months of each other. So now all of a sudden we got invoices coming in, we bring in new people, and they did the best, I should say we all did the best we could to assign or allocate those invoices to what we thought made sense out of those 300 accounts. So if you compare 24 to 25, they don't always look the same because we didn't know how to allocate them. So one might be ballooned up a little bit higher because we put stuff there that shouldn't have been there, and some might be lower because we should have allocated something there. So when people say, you don't even know what your 25 budget is. Oh yes, we know what our 25 budget is, but we also know why our numbers can look skewed. So how can we sit there and put 23, 24, 25 to the people without explaining that? And that's why there's a difference. So I hope that made sense, but until I started participating this year in the details of that budget, I had no idea what our previous staff was having to deal with. And I truly feel bad for them. And now we're trying to move to this new system. There's going to be some bumps. It's going to be difficult. And it has been difficult, but I would just ask for everybody's patience and let us work through the process. And then when we're done and we deliver, then judge us, but don't do it before we're done. This is a lot of work. Staff has busted their tail trying to figure this out. So I'll defend them. You can get rid of me if you want off this board, but I'll tell you, support them. Let them finish this process out. Right now, we have a deadline of trying to get all of our stuff in by April 1st, if we hit that. And then I think there's some little additional reconciliation that has to be done. So yeah, that's roughly the time frame that we're looking at. Yep. Yeah, you bet.
The request for funds, the authorization to spend, those items are exactly the same as last year. If anybody's interested. It's the request for funds. I have the minutes from last year and they're exactly the same, penny for penny. So do we wish to make a motion on the floor? It's on the form on the, do you have the minute meeting? Okay. Okay, that's perfect. And then we need 1,000 for the rest. And
Did you get that motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. To set the 26,000 for historical and general community celebrations.
Which
That's
is
the 23,000 plus the 3,000 that's listed on the handout.
perfect. And that is exactly the same as last year. That's the point I'm
Correct,
trying to
okay.
say.
Did
And,
somebody
and
second?
so are the next two. Maybe we can get them all done in one. The next two is same, 1,000 and 1,750. I hear a motion.
Are we still working off 911 and 912?
Are you amending your motion, sir, to include 9.2 and 9.3 as well, or are you just keeping it to 9.1?
9.2 and 9.3 are also.
9.1 includes that.
I
Right,
understand that
right,
the
right,
moderator
right,
is,
9.2 and
One
9.3.
of them isn't supposed to be recognized.
I understand.
So if I go 9.1, 9.11, 9.12, and 9.3, I think was the other one that needed to be approved,
And does it?
or was it 9.2? One of them wasn't necessary to approve by the. That one is not.
You all can still approve it for purposes of making the recommendation to the board. It's just, it does not require elector authorization. So there's a difference between what you have authority to actually authorize versus what you make as a recommendation. So you may still approve that, but that is just a discretionary approval that the board will take into consideration. They don't need your authorization for that.
I'll amend my motion to include all of the items under number 9 on the agenda.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay,
Philip Ostrow's.
all in favor? Motion is passed. Okay, now we got the really tough one. Set the 27 levy amount. Or is it impossible to make?
I guess I have concerns about things I've heard from different people, even board members in that, how the roads are in such tough shape. And yet they're talking a decrease in the funding for roads. I don't understand that. I mean, I would like to, in my opinion, I'd like, I'll say it right out, it might be not the most popular. I'd like to eliminate the police contract and put some money of that towards the road and bridge to help improve and maintain some of our roads. I think, well, I know we don't have the authority to do that, but before we go raising the levy, 300,000 or something, I'd like to see that the funds are put towards better use. Again, road and bridge has been a complaint. It'll always be a complaint. And that, again, I know that we don't have the authority to allocate which department they go to, but that should be a consideration when we're approving the levy. I'll make a motion to set the levy at 2.15.
I agree. That's probably not the most popular thing, Brian McCullough. Joe, I don't think that's necessarily the best way to do things. If I remember correct, years ago when we picked up the police, there was an initial cost to start. So if we end them and we decide to bring them back in a year or two, I believe there's going to be a fairly good cost to do that if we decide at that time. Just a point.
And just for your knowledge, the proposed budget for 26 is 2,520,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Just for your knowledge, the proposed budget for 26 is $2,525,392. So 2,150,000 would be quite a big decrease.
That was the proposed budget. That wasn't the levy, and we do get non-levy money in.
Okay. So how do I do that math?
Well, our last year's levy was 2,100,000. If you do 3%, it's 2,163, which is what the accountant suggested was a 3% increase. So that would be a $63,000 increase because we can forget about that $2,000 watershed. That's there no matter what. And that changes every year.
So then,
If we wanted a 7% increase, it would be 247,000. So I mean, there are options of what we want to do with it. The board still gets to decide if they're pulling it out of road and bridge or if they're going to fund the capital funds. What they were proposing was 2,414,000, which includes funding capital funds at the level of 277,000, which I'm not opposed to funding capital, but if we want it lower, we're going to have to pull it out of the top portion. And when we're talking about the road and bridge, that's a lot of the maintenance stuff. If you want to do improvements on the road, that's probably down below under road and bridge capital, which we're only looking at throwing 50,000 into as what the board was proposing. Because they know we're not going to be able to throw a big dollar amount on it, but so the road and bridge expense are a lot to do with the maintenance guys, things like that. I don't think included in there is resurfacing a road or anything.
okay, Sandy, so 2,150,000 as was proposed.
About 2%, a little over 2%.
And is that doable? Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to set the 2027 levy at 2,150,000 and $10. No. Is that legit?
All right,
Lisa?
I tried to get the mic and I was trying to get your attention before any of these were done.
I'm sorry.
We do not know what some of the contracts will be until July. I would like to make a motion to continue this meeting on September 8th.
No, there's already a motion on the floor.
All right.
Did we have a second on the motion? Seconded. Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All in favor? We can have discussion.
Thank you. Question was, does that eliminate the police service? Thank you.
Did you have a comment, Andy?
I have the floor, please.
You got the
My
floor.
comment is simply this.
What?
Scenario one was presented just to break even on the funds themselves. Scenario two was the sky is blue. You can believe us that the sky is not blue, or it is or not, but we have money we still have to come up with for a fire truck in the middle of summer. We just heard that part. We have a road, a major thoroughfare through our town that needs to get built this year. That money has got to come out of these funds. It got cut last year, gets cut. We can keep cutting. We can do all that. But there was to the sense, but it wasn't what was proposed. What was proposed was actually the same number. The same number was proposed last year, 2.4. This is what it costs to run the town. We don't need to believe it, and we can change it and lower it. And then we're going to come back and we're going to have to figure out how to pay for these expenses. $25. We know what we spent in 25, but we also did not put money away. We are not planning. Nobody is planning for this stuff. The capital doesn't have the funds in it. Capital was cut out of 25. So nobody got capital.
Something you have to remember on 25 though, is we had to cut the hell out of that budget. We came in and proposed $200,000 increase on levy. We had like 127 that was approved, which is fine. That's the people's choice. We cut. part of cutting was to make a choice. We had a public works employees position that was open. And when we knew that we had to cut money, that was one of the things that the board decided was to hold off on filling that position so that we could try to save that money. We have cut and cut and cut as much as we could through 25. So when you say we didn't spend that much in 25, well, that's because it wasn't authorized by the people. That's why it wasn't spent in 25, or we'd have been over budget. We made it work within the budget that you guys gave us to work within. So that's why that number is down lower. If 2.4 would have been approved, you'd have seen that the expenses were higher, but you'd have also seen where that money was put into. So that's why the number's lower. So it's not because that's what it costs to operate the township in its optimal core state. That's what we worked within the budget, if that makes sense.
Question for you. I heard a lot of complaints. Oh, I'm sorry, concerns about things that the township has not done. And you mentioned we are down one staff member, which we need. Can you explain to us what we lost? For example, I heard a lot of complaints about plowing. Was that one of those things? Can you explain to us what we're missing by cutting this budget?
Yep. So if I understand your question correctly, what we tried to do different when we cut that staff or decided to not fill that position, it's still a valid position, we just haven't filled it. What we tried to do was cover that work that needed to be done in other ways. So what we did was I went and I begged the fire department for anybody that had a CDL that could drive a plow truck to help us out. So we ended up with some backup plow drivers.
Was that paid or was that for?
No, they got paid, but $20 an hour or something like that. It was pretty minimal for a person with a CDL. So they were doing it more to help us out because this township thing. We also had a couple outsiders that also had plow experience, so we picked them up. Supervisors worked extensive hours at no pay. We don't get paid for that. So those were all volunteer hours to sit in those trucks for 15 hours or so straight. So what we tried to do is backfill the best we could, as cheap as we could, to keep those costs down so that we could go without it. Now, you guys probably didn't even realize it, not this year, but the year before, but you really didn't see an impact of plowing or salting. We were able to keep up. And also keep in mind that our backup plow drivers also have other plow jobs. So if we want to start at 1 o'clock in the morning because we got a storm coming in, they're starting their route with their normal employer. So we don't have them until they're done plowing for somebody else. That's why when some people say, well, geez, my road hasn't been touched yet. You know, it's been almost a day. You're right. We're waiting for those backup guys to come in so we can backfill and pick that up. So again, we tried to adjust the best we could. This year, kicked our butts with all the freezing rain and not having people that could get out there. And by the time we did get out there, temps were dropping below that 15-degree mark, and the salt wasn't going to do any good. We pour salt out and it just gets blown off in the ditches. So this year was different, and that's why you've seen such a major difference in road plowing and road care this winter. So again, that's why we said we have no choice. We have to fill that position. If you guys, and I will accept whatever you guys set for levy, and then we'll adjust the budget accordingly. The one thing that we can't sacrifice this year is a public works employee. We have to have it going into next year, and that means we're going to cut someplace else then. I mean, we don't have a choice. Did that answer your question? Yes. And thank you for that question. I appreciated explaining that.
I just want to add one little thing to what John was saying is, and this is something I've been advocating against since I got on the board, but the true cost to run this township is kind of hard to see because a lot of the supervisors, like he was saying, and I'm not one of them because I got kids, but they spend a ton of time working to maintain normal operations at no pay. Like we're talking hours and hours and hours. And again, I'm not one of these people because I got kids at home. But Andy and Lisa working at the recycling center, just full shifts. John, like everybody is working these shifts because they don't want these services to just fall away. And I mean, it's a disaster if our roads don't get plowed. But someday these people aren't going to be on the board anymore. We're going to have a board of people who maybe are like me, maybe they're too busy to be able to work for free. And I think at that point, if we continue down this road, it's going to hit this township like a ton of bricks where all of a sudden there's a winter where roads aren't getting plowed and we're wondering why. It's been a long time coming. And I don't think we can continue to rely on supervisors working. And again, I've been against that because I think it obscures the cost and the consequences of too low of a levy. So that's what I wanted to add to that.
So it was brought up that we can vote no on this motion, and we can vote to convene this meeting on, I'm suggesting September 8th. We will know all the bids for all the different things that we have. We will have a better idea. We may even be able to lower it. I don't know. But I just think we would be prepared to do this on September 8th. People that are on vacation now, school will be back into session. People will be here. Hopefully we'll have more people showing up to vote on this. Just a suggestion.
Where do you come up with the date, September 8th?
It's the day after Labor Day. It's
mean,
it's the second meeting of September. This has to be done by the end of September.
September 30th is the deadline to certify to the county auditor.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay, there is a motion on the floor.
One
Okay.
more comment. When you saw the scenario difference, it was about $100. Who wouldn't pay $100 to get out of this meeting right now? I mean, that is what we are talking about here, folks, just to get us to where we need to be. So keep that in mind.
A year in car payments per year, so I can have four-wheel drive, so I can drive down my road when it gets this high. And hopefully my neighbor will pay an extra $1,200 a year as well in their car payments. Oh, wait, that'll also increase my insurance cost for my car. And when the fire trucks can't get through, and I'm just talking about this one item, fire trucks can't get through, guys. You got four-wheel drive on all those? Oh, okay, well, his does. So maybe he can get in. Hopefully all their firefighters can get in. My daughter did something stupid with the bottle not too long ago, and I understand that a lot of the firefighters showed up at my house, and I'm very glad that they were there. So I'm sorry, guys, I am a super cheapskate. At the national level, I want to spend as little as I can, keep my border secure. Sorry for you guys who don't agree with me. At the local level, I'm a liberal. I want to make sure our township does well. Okay? And that's how this should work. I don't want, you know what? I am exceptionally mad. I am exceptionally mad that they are not keeping track like what you're saying. I am extremely mad because when you're not using your own money, you're an idiot. Okay? And that's why we try, and our township is very good about that. But I also think right now we are coming in at a very low information level. And if we vote for this levy right now, whatever we want, I don't think we're going to go the right way. I don't like holding it off because I know a lot of us aren't going to make it. But I think a lot of us can get a lot better educated by that time. And this is for that reason, I am not going to vote for this. I want to see this voted down. I want to see us come back. I want to see all of us come back and do more. This meeting has also encouraged me to do something. I'm either going to sit on the park board or I'm going to sit on one of the other boards. Okay. So I'm off scouts now. I'm out of that. So I'll be back on one of the boards, one of the recommendation boards. And I don't want to vote today. And I'm going to tell you guys that my time is gone.
I do want to say that where I don't feel like we have a handle on where we're at financially, I do believe the board wants to get to that point. I think we're spending way too much on this accounting firm, but their goals are good. They are not out there just trying to, so I am not trying to judge them for that. I unfortunately think the accounting firm is not doing us a good service. And it's a little late. I don't even know how you get out of it because we're in contracts with them and stuff. I think they did nothing good in giving us numbers. We had easier numbers before. However, the board's heart is in the right place on trying to come up with numbers. I'm not trying to judge them for that. My dilemma of saying, let's wait until September is this. if we decide they're not being fiscally responsible with our money, in September, it's too late to do anything about it because elections are in November. And you have to sign up to run against anyone on the board, and 3 of them are up. And I'm not suggesting anyone should be replaced, but if we decide, boy, they're really not doing good with our money, it's too late. The November elections will happen. The 3 people who are, I don't even know who they are, they'll all be in for 4 more years. So by saying, let's put it off until September, that's when some people do it, but that doesn't mean we have to put it off till September. And I've already talked about this with one of the board members. What if we put it off till July, which gives in June, hopefully the accounting firm will be able to give us good numbers through June 30th, get it out to the people for a meeting in July. And then if we don't like the way that they're proposing the levy or what the levy's doing, because this levy could go up, we don't have a choice. This levy could go up 30-40% if not enough people show up at the fall meeting. And there's nothing we can do. We can't say, fine, we'll run against you because it's too late. And they are not trying to do that. Typically, September is the month you would redo this. So this is nothing like they're trying to post any kind of shenanigans at all. It's just when it is. So my proposal would be, if we want to put it off until second week in July. And boy, if that accounting firm or our treasurer, by that time, the treasurer should be doing it all, should be able to have good numbers by July 10th from June. And then we'll at least know where we're at. And it gives us time to decide what we want for the levy before someone has to choose if they want to run for the board. So if it's going to be put off, that would be my recommendation. Now, I realize there's a motion on the floor that's got to be voted on. And we can also say that we don't like that one, it's too low. And I think John said last night, we can also say, we will approve a levy up to X amount of dollars. And then then it's up to them to figure out, it's still up to them to figure it out. But we can say, because they keep saying maybe they'll lower the levy. Well, then we can say, well, we'll give you up to a 7% increase or something like that. And then it's up to them. And hopefully they can bring it lower than 7%. Probably not, because we do want to fund capital, but. And choose another number, choose another one. I would ask John if that's feasible to pull it to June, July. I mean, I can't speak for the accountant.
Mark, and correct me if you want, but I believe it's whatever date the electorate chooses. We just have to make sure that the meeting happens with enough time to where we can certify it by September 30th. So it could be July, right, Mark? It could be any date. And just remember, like when we set the levy now, it doesn't actually go to the county until the end of the year, even though you're setting it now, or you set it in July or September. We certify it by September 30th, but then we have to do a final submission in December, and then it becomes effective. So that's why they give us a little bit more time. Cities have it great because they don't have to put theirs in until December. So they know exactly how they ended their year. They know exactly whether their costs went up or down. And so they get that luxury. We don't. We get to guess at this, and we all get to guess at this in March and do our best. And that's why the board is asked. We're not here to try to, it's my money too. You know, I pay taxes too. So I don't want my taxes to go up anymore. But that's why we're trying to get you guys to understand that if you can give us, even if it's July, if we can have a little bit more time, so we're a little bit deeper into the year, know more about where our expenses are, the contracts with police, they don't come out until, I think it's August or something like that. But it'll give us closer to where we're more educated on that given year, so we can all make a better informed decision. And that's really what the board has been begging for, is to allow us to get a little further in the year so we're more educated. And then you guys are more educated, we make a better decision on our levy. And I would hope that it goes down.
Okay, I think we have to move on. People are leaving here now.
It was, I don't know. The month was put out there by Sandy, just as an example.
First of all, we gotta vote on the 2,150,000, and then.
If anybody wants to get more information, show up to a workshop. I was one of three people last night to learn about this budget. That's pathetic for other people not to show up.
Okay. Let's vote on the issue that we had on the floor. And then if we turn it down, we can vote on postponing the setting the budget till either August or if we want. Okay, so all in favor of setting the budget at 2,150,000, say aye.
Can we do a show of hands?
We'll do a show of hands.
4, 5, 6.
Okay, obviously that did not pass. Now, do I hear another?
Mr. Moderator, if I may, before another motion, just to give a little bit of context to what John had indicated. John is exactly right. There is authority to move the meeting. You would adjourn it to a time, place, and date certain. So if somebody does make such a motion, you would need to specify the location, the time, and the date. There would be a posting and publication requirement that would come. So it would make it out in the paper again of what that new date is going to be. It needs to be at least 10 days prior to the hearing. It'll get posted here at the town hall. And then just one more piece to kind of give you another law that might come into play. I know somebody had brought up the idea of running for office. That affidavits of candidacy need to come in 84 days prior to the election day, which is November 3rd. And so that would put you at August 11th-ish. And so that if there were to be a meeting early August or late July, that would allow you all to come back, reconvene, set the levy at that meeting. And then if you decide you're not happy, you can throw your hat in the race and pay your $2 if you want.
I just want to elaborate a little bit on what Andy was saying. The difference between what she was proposing at the 2,150,000, whatever, to the 2,414. If you break it up between the 2,800 households, it's about $10 a month. I think we could probably vote on this, and I'll set a motion to vote on the 2,414. And we can probably move on and not have to come back over $10 a month. I mean, drink one less beer, smoke one less pack of cigarettes, whatever, you know, let's get over it for $10 a month.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to adjust the levy to 2,414,000, and there has been a second.
Can we get a name for the motion in the second, please? Thank you.
Okay, motion on the floor has been made and seconded. I did get a second, didn't I? Okay, to raise the budget to 2,414,000. All in favor? Vote aye.
And we'll just.
It's obviously going to pass. Okay, so we voted for the ayes. Now could we have a vote for the nays? The motion for 2,414,000 has passed. Okay. So the next, hold on a minute, quick. Next annual meeting is set for March 9th, 2027. Okay with everybody?
Can we set unless you want it to be 9 in the morning, can we set a time? Because by statute, default is 9 in the morning, I believe.
7 PM.
Can we do that via motion?
Yes. Okay,
Can we get a name? And a name, sir?
yeah, we got it. Second, we got a motion on the floor and
Name.
seconded.
Can,
Okay, all in favor? What? We just want to quiet down. All in favor for the meeting next year, March 9th, 2027, 7 PM. All in favor? Okay, you're free in August now and you're free in July. And one last final thing. You have now attended the longest meeting we've ever had in history of Linwood.
motion to adjourn, anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Can we get a name? Let's one person. Austin Santer makes the motion. Second. All in favor? Great. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
I didn't know that.